you know, Dotloop is changing every day. Since the beginning class that I did a few weeks ago, they changed the whole support page up on us, and they've made it a little bit more, I think, user-friendly. So we're going to talk about that today too. Is there any questions while people are hopping on there? Is anybody who have some things for sure that they want to discuss today while we're on? I know we got a lot of veteran agents on here too today, and you know, every week I get a phone call from somebody saying, you know, Donna, I'm having this problem and I don't really know how to fix it, or I don't know what's happening. So just let's take a few minutes if you have any of those questions. And
I have a question.
Okay.
Okay, so so I got a loop, and somebody else, it's my listing, and somebody else puts an offer in, and they have a separate loop. Is there a way to put them in one loop, or do we have to go back and forth with two different loops?
We're going to talk about that today because that is our biggest problem. And actually, Linda, it's funny, Linda and I tried to work an offer this past week and couldn't. There's a couple of different problems happening. So there's agents who are trying to link to your listing loop, but the MLS is putting out a feed to Zillow. And so Zillow is also adding a loop to our searchable loops. And so a lot of agents are seeing that loop that Zillow's putting out through our MLS, and it looks like my listing loop or your listing loop. So agents are connecting that way, and they're connecting to the wrong loop. The problem is, once it's up there and going, and you get two agents connecting to it, like I had multiple offers on that Boxwood house, I ended up having people that connected to the wrong listing loop, and they thought they were connected to it. You were one of them. You and Scott Blevins both connected to the same listing loop. And so the only way I know that is that when it comes to me, it still says it's a listing loop. And so it's still hanging out there as an active searchable loop. I would suggest there's really not a good way to merge. I'm going to show you, if you've started a loop that you've not connected to a listing loop, I'm going to show you today how you could connect after the fact. Merging loops, even though we have a merge button, it rarely works. It rarely works. So I almost wish they didn't even have that merge button out there. But just tip number one, if you have a listing loop, someone else creates a buyer's loop, work out of that buyer's loop. And I think there's a little bit of confusion as to, you've created a listing loop and you have submitted for review in your listing loop, and then you get a contract. So a lot of people are taking that the contract docs and moving it to their listing loop, thinking that they have to submit for review in that listing loop. You don't. You can actually submit for review in the contract loop, even if it's not your loop. Does that make sense? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today, but that's kind of, I mean, there's no way around it, because not everybody has the same training, that you're going to still have people not connect to your correct loop. But we'll try to tweak that a little bit today. Let's see, I'm actually going to pull up MLS real quick. So people are still coming on, so I'm not going to get quite started just yet. Linda, do you have a listing right now? I'm going to search and see if you have one that's active. You do. Do you usually set up an easy offer or no?
Yes, I think you had Butler Mill.
Okay, because I'm going to be nosy and do that so that I have an example to kind of show you today.
But I want to see what they're doing. So let me see what they're doing real quick.
Yeah, one
Okay, you can call me back. I was just gone while I was sitting here.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're there. So let me know exactly what she says.
I will.
Hey guys, make sure you mute yourself, or we'll hear your conversations. Let's see.
Love you, bye.
Love you, bye.
Snowbird. Okay, just wanted to get that ready. On the beginner class too, I tell everybody, if you're on Facebook, make sure that you are part of the Dotloop user community. You can ask to join that. There's a lot of good information, and I mean, seriously, they are putting new stuff out every single day. Sometimes I can't keep up with all the new things that they're doing, and a lot of their training videos are a little bit behind on what as they're updating things. But if you're on Facebook and you're not a part of this community yet, it's a private group. Join it. It's Dotloop user community, and there's always a conversation going on here. I know Debbie McBee's out of my office, and she is awesome about trying to communicate with Dotloop. They're really awesome and they listen, but she was struggling. For those of you who are using your iPad a lot and using the app, Debbie had found an iPad Pro in a way that she can organize and move documents better that she had not been able to do on the regular app. So there's a little article here that Debbie put out that just how she was using Dotloop and what she found. This specific mouse, I actually ordered it and it does work. So this specific mouse will let you use the app on your iPad, and it works much better. So I don't know if it's just part of how it's set up, but sometimes you can't do certain things on the app. But this little mouse made a lot more functionality to the app. So see, there's lots and lots of comments here. A lot of people comment about like the security of Dotloop. You know, to me, let me get back here. To me, if Realty Executives is trusting this to be their full compliance side, and we're not keeping paperwork anymore, then I feel comfortable in trusting it also. When several years pass and Dotloop finally has to purge, because they will have to eventually purge all these documents, they will let us know way ahead of time that it's time. So just a tip for you that have been using this for a while, at the end of the year, I usually go in and I download my contracts, my documents, my folders, and I store that on a separate drive, just so that I'll have it. I've still got paperwork for years, but that's me. But just kind of know that you can still do that if you want to do that.
Hey Donna.
Yes.
Someone wants to know the type of mouse you were talking about. Can you maybe or tell them the brand name?
So once you join that Facebook user community, it's about the third article down. Can y'all see that Facebook page that I'm showing right now? Megan, can they see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So here's Debbie's comment, and she explains what the problem that she was having. And this is on Amazon. Let me see if I can open it up. It's a Bluetooth wireless mouse. And like I said, immediately after she did it, I ordered it. It's only like $14. But that, for some reason, that Bluetooth mouse works great with your iPad. And so a lot of the functionality that we had not had, she was able to figure out that worked. For some reason, that made a lot of like she couldn't move documents around, and
Right.
with that mouse pad with that mouse, she's now able to do that. So that's the kind of thing that you get on that Facebook community, is just tips and tricks that people are using, or problems that come up. If you see that you're having a problem on Dotloop, maybe go to that page and just see if anybody else is having that problem, because that is a forum across the whole nation of Dotloop users. So you're going to hear, their comments before you can even get a hold of support if you have a problem. Let's see. I've still got people coming on. Make sure you guys change your name so we know who you are. I think Daryl, is that Daryl Tipton? Daryl's iPhone? Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Some of you that may be still driving and doing this on your phone may not be able to change that. So if you'll just put your comments, or put your name in the comments if you can't do the name change. But I think, Megan, does that look like everybody's giving you the ability to see a name? All right. All right. Okay. I'm going to get started then. So as Linda said, You know, our biggest problem right now is as we're becoming more sophisticated Dotloop user, we get more and more frustrated with those who are not sophisticated Dotloop users. And I think a lot of companies do not have the training that we have. I think we do have good training here, but you know, I know Keller Williams has always been a Dotloop user. They're kind of switching gears and changing to a different system, but we're still seeing a lot of people there with Keller Williams use Dotloop. Dotloop is available for any agent. You can either have a freemium account or you can have a premium account. And we're lucky in that Realty Executives provides our premium account for us. If there's an agent that asks you about it, Dotloop is $29 a month for anybody to get a premium account. But like I said, we have the privilege of having that provided for us through Realty Executives. So again, just a really quick tip, when you're in your Dotloop, always make sure that you're seeing your premium account and it says premium up here. And even this has changed over the past few months on how it looks, cleaner, a little bit more simple, I guess. If you're a member of a team and your team is interested, you can actually get your own logos up here or your team logo with Realty Executives so that when you're sharing documents, your team name comes up. So there's team products among our accounts in the premium. So if you have a team or work for a team and you're curious about how to get the team membership, give me a call and I'll have Dotloop reach out to you about setting up some team membership. Bill, do we have any agents using the Dotloop team yet? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of, unless Dwight's team has started doing it, but I'm not aware of it.
Okay. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about templates and tasks. That's one of the things I think that's underused. We don't realize what all is in the template section, in the task section, and how you can use it. And then again, we're going to focus a lot on making those loops searchable and what's the best way to transition those loops to work efficiently, because I think that's the biggest problem is a lot of people are doing double work, making too much work for the other agent. I mean, I don't know how many of you have gotten angry and said a few sideways words about agents who don't want to work out of your loop. And one of the best things I heard, you know, somebody said, it was a Keller Williams agent who said, oh, we don't work out of your loop. So they're creating a new loop and sharing documents with you out of their loop that they created. And you have to go in there and work in it, but they don't want you in their loop. However, they just created that loop for you and you're working together out of that same loop. So it makes no sense, the reasoning, oh, that we don't want you in our loop. And don't forget, guys, you can't see anybody's stuff unless it's shared. So, you know, accidentally things happen, accidentally you share things maybe, but I mean, not typically. So nobody's going to see your stuff. You can have a listing loop and have everything all the way down to mama's will and her death certificate in there. And unless you share that document, the buyer's agent's never going to see it, never going to see it at all. So don't be afraid of people seeing your stuff. It won't happen. You also have that activity log that you can always check to see what you've done, what you've shared, who's looking at things. So don't forget that you have that use too. I'm going to go really quick into just a loop and get down here to the bottom. Anytime you're in a loop and you go to the very bottom of the page, there is a Help Center button. And I want to go to this because even since the beginning class, this has totally changed. So they've made it a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit easier to follow. So we've got over here to the left, you've got the different aspects of who would be using Dotloop. So you've got agents, admin, team leaders, service providers, buyers, sellers, and then at the very bottom, you've got integrations. So there's a section here for frequently asked questions. Here's other topics. Here's new features. So if I click on this new features, you're going to see that we now have a new button through this program called Earnest, and it's requesting earnest money. So if you click on this, they'll walk you through what this means. They'll show you how to get it. You know, this is so new that I haven't even talked to our brokers about how we would do this, but this could really make our life easier if we could use this. It basically uses a third-party company to be able to wire efficiently money for earnest money into our account. So we wouldn't have to be collecting checks. So it's really kind of a cool thing, and maybe a way of the future, because I know that we talk a lot when we are getting that earnest money check and we're adding that earnest money check to our loops. If you're not blocking out personal information, you know, there's lots of people seeing that, and so they have account numbers, they have addresses, they have your client's name. So having checks in there, there's a little bit of a responsibility on our part that we need to protect our client's information. So if you're ever adding checks to Dotloop, make sure that you share that check to the lender first, and then go in and block out that information with text boxes so that you're protecting them. But this earnest money button is going to be, I think, something that we will use more and more. But like I said, I haven't talked to our brokers about it, so don't attack them on how can we do this just yet. But right here's the button. It's got, you know, send earnest money request right here, and it will follow. It will take you through. You can kind of play with it, you know, just so you can see what's there. But it's using a third-party account. So getting back to that support page, let's see if I can get back. So that was the new feature button. If you want to, like team leaders, this is for the team section. So if you're interested in that, you can go there. If you go to the agent section, it's going to break it. Well, it did last night. It's working in this. So getting started. So here's some Dotloop basics. Here's co-oping, optimizing your account, extra features. So everything that we saw before in that beginner class, they've compiled it just a little bit different way. So there's several articles here. So if you want to look at like submitting for review, you can go there or creating your first loop, or how you add people to a loop. For your buyers and sellers, you got the same thing. What is Dotloop? How to use Dotloop? Buyer and seller frequently asked questions. So they've kind of tried to simplify this a little bit. Anytime you're looking for something, you've got this global search bar. So if you're wanting to find out how to do an easy offer folder, you can search for that, and it's going to bring up the topics. And like, for instance, this easy offer best practices, it's going to take you through each step on how to set up your easy offer. So you can use that search bar that way. You also can chat with someone from Dotloop immediately. So if I want to chat with somebody, I can just load this up, ask them a question, fill in your information, and they will respond to you right away. So that's pretty cool. They've taken away, there's an email down here. They used to have just a messages up here where you could send an email, but they've put that down here so you can email them, and they're very quick to answer you. Also, as a premium user, I've been to the Dotloop in Cincinnati. It's a huge building, it's huge departments, and they have one whole section of the building that's just devoted to people answering questions. So when the phone rings at Dotloop, if you are a premium user, you go to the top. If you are a freemium user, you may be sitting and waiting a while. So again, we've got the privilege of having that, you know, being put to the front if you're having an issue with Dotloop. And then feel free to call me if you need anything. You know, it's easy to send Dotloop a message, but if you're stuck or you think of something and you want to ask later, just call me. My number is 865-776-2592. Okay, we got a question. Let me see. Thanks, Megan. Put my number in the chat if you want to write that down. So Jody says, so when you share, can you share just a document and not the entire folder? Yes, you can share a specific document or an entire folder. Now, when you submit for review, you're submitting an entire folder every time, no matter what. All right. Okay, so I am going to, you know, we've got three scenarios. We either work with Dotloop users that are sophisticated. We either work with people who are not going to use Dotloop, but they're going to use AuthentiSign. And then we've got people who don't use any electronic signature or paperless program at all. And so you kind of have to learn how to deal with each one of those agents. Every agent that works for Realty Executives should be using Dotloop as their as the way that they do business. I mean, in order to get paid, they have to use Dotloop. So they have to submit for review. They have to do those things. So you can feel confident that when you are sending documents to a Realty Executives agent, you're sending them through the loop. You shouldn't have to attach those as a PDF, and you should always be giving can, edit, and private permissions. And that's still a big, big problem among us is, you know, I worked with an agent last week and everything she sent to me was view only. Well, guys, I can't do anything with view only. I have to actually make a copy of those documents and then reassign things because you can't work with a view only document. That's all you can do is view it. So please, please, when you're sharing with other agents, make sure that you are sharing can, edit, and private. I'm sorry I lost you all, so I'm looking for you. This screen is tricky. All right, so I'm gonna just pretend that I am starting a new loop. I'm gonna look for Linda Meese's Snowbird Drive listing. So this is another little issue that we have with advanced users is when they think that they're trying to search for a listing loop, they try to search in this search bar here. This search bar is only for your loops that you've created. So if I start searching for Snowbird in my loops, I've never had a loop named Snowbird, so I'm not going to find it. So this is the #1 problem that happens is agents go here looking for a listing loop. They don't find it, so they immediately create their own. So if I'm looking for a searchable loop, I'm going to go to this add loop button, and I'm actually going to start the creation of a new loop. And then in this address bar, I'm going to go ahead and type in Linda's address, and I'm going to see, I'm hoping that we'll see both of the listings, but I'm not seeing it at all, Linda. Let's see.
Well, you know why you won't find it? Because it's not active. It's closed.
Oh, it's in the MLS. Did I pull up
Closed.
Did I pull up a
Go
closed?
look, Butler Mill. That's active.
Okay, thank you. Do you know that? Well, let's just try. You don't even need the house number. Butler Mill, 2 words.
Maryville.
Let's see if we can pull it up just by this. All right.
There it is.
Okay, so if you look, right here is 542 Butler Mill, listed by Linda Meese. There's the price. Whoo, that's a nice one. You've got a Dotloop MLS number here. If you look down, you've got other Butler Mills, but if you look right here, here's another one listed by Linda Meese. Same one, 542, has the same MLS number, but the difference is it says Knoxville Association of Realtors. So Linda, this is the problem. Dotloop is supposed to make this loop, and I'm circling down here at the bottom, it's supposed to go into ghost mode, and it's not happening. And I have screamed, and I've cried, and I've yelled at them and said, guys, it's still not working properly. So just be aware that if you pull up someone's listing loop and you find 2 of these, do not choose the one that says Knoxville Area Association. I always say, don't choose the one that looks the most official, because that is not the one this particular loop is a listing loop, but it's put out through Zillow by the Knoxville Association's feed. And so this loop is the one that Linda created. So does that make sense, Linda? When the other day you guys saw the Knoxville Association loop, you connected to it, you sent me my offer that way. So I still had 2 separate loops, and both of them said listing for sale and active listing. So people were connecting to both loops. So when I had multiple offers, I had 2 or 3 offers in my loop, and then I had 2 or 3 offers in this Knoxville Association loop. And so it's really, really confusing. So if you'll just make a note for yourself, don't choose the Knoxville Area Association of Realtors loop unless if you're dealing with someone who is not using Dotloop and you know they're not using Dotloop. I don't know, maybe it's somebody at Town and Country Realtors here in Maryville and they're just not using any kind of paperless program. Then you can connect to this loop that's provided by the Knoxville MLS, because what it's going to do is it's going to auto-populate information from the MLS like addresses and things like that, so that you can at least have a loop that's already created with some information. Any questions?
Yes. Can you delete that?
Can you delete the loop that you connected to incorrectly?
Yes.
You can archive it. You can't delete anything in Dotloop except people, but you can archive it and try to connect to the correct one.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, get this down. All right, so I'm going to connect to Linda's loop here. I'm going to hit continue. And in this case, I'm going to choose offer sale because I'm going to write the offer. Create the loop, view the loop. Linda's nice enough to have a picture loaded so I even see what it looks like. But you can see that she has done an easy offer folder. Yay, Linda. So you hear me talk about this all the time. If I can find your searchable loop and link to it, I'm happy. But if I can connect to your loop and there's an easy offer folder, my job has already been made way easier and I'm super excited because you've done something for me that helps me. So I'm just looking here. Linda's got disclosures here for me. And she has got something else here. Let's see, property disclosure. So she's added the things that I would need to write a contract. And you have two here. So you might, I don't know if you want to.
There's two houses on the property. There's two houses. Yeah.
Oh, so this is the studio. Good deal. Good deal. Makes sense. Okay, so what I would do on this, in this case, this loop has already named this folder with my name on it. And if you think about it, we don't know the other person's client, but we know that agent that we're working with. So when I connect to Linda's loop, it automatically labels that folder that I've connected to her easy offer and it has my name. So that when I do share documents back with Linda, she's going to have a folder within her loop with my name on it. So if you're doing multiple offers and they connect to your loop, you may have 4 easy offer folders, but all with different agent names. And so it automatically starts to organize for you. So when I do this and connect, I may not do anything with this. We may be looking at Butler Mill tonight and I just kind of wanted to see what Linda's got in here, see if she has a loop, you know, just to kind of prep myself. Now, Linda has no idea that I connected to her Butler Mill loop. No idea. It doesn't affect her in any way. If she wanted to, she could go in her activity log and it would show that I connected or that I was looking at her easy offer documents. So when I go back to one of my multiple offers, I can see who actually connected in the activity log. But other than that, I have no idea. It doesn't affect my experience with my loop. So just know that if you want to check ahead of time before showing house to see if somebody has an easy offer or if you can even find their loop, go ahead and do it. And there's lots of agents who just forget one little step. So when you're doing your listings, let me get to one of mine. When you start to set up a listing, you need to always make sure that you have, whoops, that's not a listing, that's a purchase loop. And that's kind of, I'll show you that in just a second. Here's my listing. So this is listing for sale, active listing, and then I always make sure that you have the listing agent role right here. Make sure you have the listing agent role. So you have to have all 3 of those things to be searchable. Listing for sale, active listing, and the agent role as listing agent. Those 3 things will automatically make your loop searchable. Now, you could have this pre-private, active, or under contract. I have noticed that the active and the under contract are easier to find. If you do a pre-listing or a private listing, sometimes it doesn't show up. So I'm going to tell you the tip is just if you're going to do a listing, it doesn't matter if it's active today or active 6 weeks from now, go ahead and make it active. I have people that still say, but Donna, it's not going to be on the MLS for 2 weeks. I don't care. This is only making it active and searchable. It's not making it active on the MLS. So don't be afraid to go ahead and make it active. The under contract still works because you may take a backup offer. So you still want to be searchable for someone who's doing a backup contract. Once you move this to withdrawn or sold or terminated or archived, then it will go away. It will automatically disable that loop to be searchable. So be very careful because we have a lot of Dotloop users who don't know how to do this. So they do a listing loop, they get it under contract, they close it out, and it still shows as an active listing. So I may see 3 loops. One is that weird Knoxville Association loop. One is the actual listing loop, and then maybe one is from a previous listing. So always double check the MLS number. If you put the MLS number into your view details section, once you do get it on the MLS, then you will also be able to search by that MLS number. So let's see, I may have passed it. I may not have even got this one in the MLS number in. Let's see. Bill, you always use this feature. Where am I missing this?
Say that again.
There it is. I'm sorry, MLS number right here in the middle. So once you put your MLS number in, I could actually search for a listing just by the MLS number. So if I were doing creating a loop again, I could actually type in an MLS number here and it will search for that particular listing loop. So that helps too. Always make sure that you name your loops by the client, by the address if you're already working on a property, and then by the client name if you don't have a property yet. So what I mean by that is, let's say Melissa Anderson has a buyer that comes here from Texas. I don't know about you guys, but they're coming here to Tennessee from everywhere right now. So let's say she has a buyer that's coming from Texas. She's never met him, but they go ahead and reach out to her and they say, okay, I'm going to be coming down there in 3 weeks and I want to go ahead and get with you, and I want to go ahead and work with you specifically. Maybe it's a referral or whatever. So Melissa goes in and she creates a new loop and she calls it Betty Buyer's loop, okay? So Betty Buyer is going to send Melissa it's going to be an offer sale because we're looking for her property. And I'm going to hit done. It's going to create the loop. Okay, so now I have a buyer's loop, just named by the buyer. I don't have a property yet. We've not found that property. So once I go ahead and plug in Betty's information, and maybe she sends me her pre-qual letter, maybe I go ahead and add in a buyer's agency agreement, I can go ahead and do a pre-offer here, and I can change this to rename it to be contract folder so that I'm ready to go when we do find that property. Now, let's say that I'm looking for a searchable listing. So instead of creating a whole new loop by that searchable listing, I go in Betty Buyer's loop and I go into the view details section and I go down here to where the property address is and I can search here. So if I want to connect to, Bill, do you have one that you know I can connect to? Anybody got an address that they know is searchable? What you got?
Everything I've got is pending, fortunately.
Let's see. Let me think about one I did yesterday.
215 Tree Frog Trace.
Awesome. 215 Tree Frog. Okay. That,
Tree Frog, 2 words.
2 words. Okay. So there it is, Ron. So this time it's not showing that weird MLS loop. So this is Ron's listing, and I'm going to click to it. I'm going to go ahead and import data. So I just now took a buyer's loop that has always been a buyer's loop, and I just connected it to Ron's listing at 215 Tree Frog Trace. Now look, the address populated in here, but the name of my loop did not change. I can go up here and change this property address or change it to use the property address, and it should refresh. Let's see. Should auto populate with that, and it didn't. So let's go in here. So you can go up here and change this. See, it's still wanting to do that. Let's see. I'm going to go up here and just change it here. There it goes. Okay. I'm not sure why it's double type. Something weird's going on. Do y'all see that? It's like double typing the whole address. But I guess my point is, if you've created a loop and you've started working in that loop and you've created documents, if you decide to attach to a listing loop, You can still do that even if you've started documents. Now this loop is attached to a listing loop. I can't use this loop if we don't write an offer on Tree Frog Trace and we decide to go over here to Brown School Road and write an offer. I can't use this loop again because I'm already linked to a listing on this one. But when you do link this way, make sure that everything in here gets changed from Betty Buyer to the property address. Otherwise, when it starts auto-populating your information, it will be the wrong information. So you don't want to do that. I had a deal a few weeks ago where the agent wrote an offer on one particular property and her buyer was in there, and the agent it wasn't a listing loop that she connected to. It was just a basic loop she created. But then when she connected to my listing loop, it was auto-populating the information from the other property. So make sure if you do go in here and attach to a listing loop, make sure all the information is going to add up and be the same. So instead of merging a loop, so Linda was asking earlier, what if, how can we put these loops together? That's one way. So if I get started tonight and I'm writing an offer for Betty Buyer, and then I decide that I haven't found her listing loop yet, I give her a call and say, hey, Melissa, make sure you put the listing agent role because I can't find you. Now I find her, I can go into that view details section and search for her listing and connect after the fact. But if I have two loops, if I have a listing loop and I have a buyer's loop, and I try to merge those, 9 times out of 10, it will not work. Not work at all. Let me see if we have a question. Wondering where the coffee table is. Was that for me, Ron?
Well, I just miss our coffee table when we're in person. So.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. All right, so that's the important thing. So if you're a listing agent, I encourage you, go tonight, look at all your listings, make sure they say listing for sale, make sure that they say active listing, and make sure you've given yourself the listing agent role. And if that's the case, then every one of your loops are searchable. Okay, let's talk about how to make that easy offer. So let's say I'm going to list 123 Crown Street. Okay, so when I start typing in to create my first listing loop, Dotloop's going to start searching for those listings that are searchable, and then it's going to drop to a Google map search. Let's just say Alcoa has it. There's not an Alcoa Crown Street, but let's just keep going. So that's how it starts looking. It starts looking for searchable loops, then it defaults to Google map search. If it doesn't find it, you can continue to type away and create a practice loop or whatever loop you want to create. In this situation, it's going to be a listing, and I'm going to hit continue, and I'm going to get started. So view this loop. Listing for sale. See, right now I have no status. So this loop is not searchable. So I need to change it to an active listing, and then I need to make sure that I am the listing agent, because right now it doesn't have me as having any role. So I'm going to make myself the listing agent. All right, I'm going to go up here in this drop down, and this is just good tips, good habits. If you're doing a listing, you're going to name it by the address. Then you're going to rename your folder to be your listing folder. And I tell people this all the time. Our loops are an absolute mess. We've got brokers on this call. We've got hub people on this call. They can tell you that it is an absolute mess to look at Realty Executives loops, because we have the bad habit of having folder after folder after folder, but none of them have a name. And so when you start to move documents around, you can't do it efficiently because you don't know which folder you're moving it to. And so when the hub's looking at something, they don't know which folder. We've got agents, guys, who do a folder that has some listing documents, but then a folder that has maybe the disclosures separately. And then they have an easy offer folder, and then they might have another folder for repairs or, home inspection stuff. I'm not saying you can't have folders, but label your folders so that people can figure out what you've got in there, and even yourself figure it out. So I always rename my folder to my listing folder. Then I pull in my templates. So I'll go into my listing package, and I'll pull in whatever documents I need for this particular listing. Bring those in. and I'm going to prepare these documents. So anytime you guys know this, if you're a veteran user, you know that anytime you open a document for the very first time, you get this autofill feature. So I don't have a buyer yet, but I can select a seller. I can add a person here. I can add it in view details. I can add it when I share a document. There's lots of places, but in the autofill, you could go ahead and add buyers or sellers. So I'm going to add Dolly. She's already in my loop. So I'm going to add Dolly as my seller. And the address is not in here because it did not recognize that address. So it's not auto-populated it, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to go ahead and autofill. If you ever open a document and then you failed to autofill, you can always go back up here and autofill on your own manually. And then you'll be good to go. Same way. All right. I'm just going to say that I am designated agent for seller because at Realty Executives we're always that. And I'm going to go ahead and sign this document, and I'm going to go ahead and send it to Dolly. And I'm showing you this because I want to make sure I wasn't able to do this in the beginning classes as easily, but I want you guys to see how it looks to the other side of the deal, whether that be the buyer, the seller, or the agent you're working with. But Dolly is automatically assigned in this spot. Oftentimes, when you send this has a specific place for Dolly to sign, but Dolly's also a seller. Sometimes on our documents, it will ask them to sign twice. So I typically manually assign this next box here to no one. So I've got Dolly here. It's not wanting me to flip down here. Why is that? No one. Okay, so this will eliminate, you can see in this field, I made it be assigned to no one, so that will eliminate the chance that it would ask Dolly to sign twice. I noticed that on like our affiliated business disclosure for some reason, it will try to, if you've got it assigned to 2 sellers or 2 buyers, it will make them sign twice. So I'm going to share here with Dolly. So I can save and share here, or I can share the document itself. And I've given Dolly can sign. Now, if this was a contract, if this were a contract and I didn't want Dolly to sign yet, I can send it to her as view only. If it were a property disclosure, I could give her can fill and sign. I never give her can edit in private because I don't want Dolly writing her own contract or her own documents. So that again is for agents. Can fill and sign is those would be if they do need to fill something out like a property disclosure or a lead-based paint, then you would use can fill and sign. So I'm going to type Dolly a message here. Dolly, this is our confirmation of agency. Please sign. Now I'm really pretty descriptive in when I'm sharing documents to buyers or sellers, because to me this is an added layer of protection. If I ever have to go to court, when I share documents, I can say I explained what they're signing. So I hit all the pertinent terms on a contract in this, and I still say call me when you get this. Again, first-time home buyers, I send it view only first, but I'm going to explain what I'm sending to my client in this message box. Again, don't attach it as a PDF. No need to, and hit share. So on our side, we're going to see that this is waiting on others. I have agents that ask me all the time, Donna, that document that I have, it's signed by everybody, but it still says waiting on others. When you get finished with a document and it has all parties signed, don't share it back as can sign. Share it back as view only, and you will eliminate the problem of having that waiting on others alert right there. So I'm going to swap over here to Dolly. So Dolly gets an email. This is the way Dolly's email looks. Donna Tallent has shared this document with you. It's going to always give them the loop name. It's also going to have the view document button here and my message here. It also has the title of the document up here in the email box. Now, if I had sent this as a PDF, in this email will also be an attachment.
Donna, we're not seeing your email.
See it.
Oh, you can't see the screen?
All we see is the 123 Crown Street, Alcoa, Tennessee Dotloop.
Your screen sharing is paused. Resume share. Oh, it's not letting me. This is good to know. This is a new Zoom issue. So I can't share my other. Oh, interesting. Well, we won't do it that way. Sorry, guys. Basically, when I was in Dolly's loop, it showed when she opened that document, it has a blinking button at the top that says begin signing. And the only I want you to see how it looks to your clients, because I would say 9 times out of 10, you don't know how it looks to them. And so when they open that document, whether it be on their iPad, whether it be on their phone or on the computer or in their email, it's going to blink and say begin signing. When they click that, it automatically moves them down to the signature line. You need to let your clients know that they can scroll up and down and read the document they're signing before they sign. So that's always good to know how it looks on the client side or even to the other agent. Whenever I get a document from another agent and it's blinking, please sign, I know immediately that they have given me can sign and not can edit in private. And I can't do anything with it because most of the time I don't have a place to sign on a contract or on a property disclosure. So make sure you're always sending to the other agent can edit in private. Well, I'm sorry that didn't work, guys. That's what I was hoping that I had figured it out from the last time. I wasn't able to show you on the beginning class how that looked, so I'd hoped that it would work, but I guess it doesn't. It doesn't let me switch browsers. Megan, will you make a note that we can ask Zillow, or not Zillow, Zoom, how we can switch browsers to share screens?
I'm on it.
Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see. Okay, we have a question. We don't see the email. Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right, so let's just say that Dolly has signed these documents that we have. So our listing folder, let's say everything is signed. I've not even submitted it for review yet because I'm going to go ahead and add my new folder, which is going to be called Easy Offer. I've had people rename it offer folder. That's fine. Whatever you want to call it. To me, Easy Offer folder makes it very simple for me to find it and know what I'm moving documents to. If you do a Dotloop training class with Dotloop, with the corporate office, they will just basically tell you to take your documents here and move them up to the Easy Offer. I'm going to tell you don't do that. I keep my listing folder intact with the signatures, and I don't share those documents because if you share it incorrectly, the other agent could modify your document and add signatures, and so then your original is gone. So just like with a listing folder that you would have if you had a paper folder, you would never hand over your original documents to the buyer's agent or to anybody else for that matter. You would keep those intact. So once your listing folder is signed, really you can just compress it because you don't need anything out of it. But instead of moving those up here to the Easy Offer folder, I actually make a copy. So you say, well, what do we put in the Easy Offer folder? You put any of the disclosures or anything that you want to make public or shareable. So the things that we put in the MLS under the document section, restrictions, maybe a list of updates, maybe a letter from your seller as to why they're selling the house, you know, utility information, anything that you want to make public or share with an agent or a buyer, you would put in that document section of the MLS. Same thing with this Easy Offer folder. I know Bill oftentimes goes ahead and adds like a lead-based pamphlet and sometimes even a purchase and sales agreement in the Easy Offer folder, just so that the agent, when they open it up, they have everything at their fingertips to write an offer. Now, you may or may not want to use somebody else's purchase and sale since it has their name at the bottom, but I mean, some agents have put those in there. I see a lot of things in the Easy Offer folder, but make a copy. So I'm kind of proud of our office because I'm not seeing so many people at the copy machine anymore. When we first started using Dotloop, I had a lot of people that would still take their documents, download them, print them out, scan them back in. Anytime you head to the copy machine to do something in Dotloop, think about it. Think, what can I do to keep myself from spending that quarter on that print machine? How can I make this copy on Dotloop without going to the copy machine? So what you do is you're going to click the documents that you want to make copies of. And when you click here, we have a menu that opens up at the top. That make a copy feature. So Bill and I had a situation yesterday where something got left off. He got his client's permission to change this, but basically he made a copy and dropped in something that was missing. And it wasn't this wasn't contractual, so don't worry, we weren't doing anything bad, but you can actually make a copy of something and drop something in place that you need to put in place with a text box and redo it. So sometimes I will even make a copy of an affiliated business because we've already signed the affiliated business, but I'll just drop in a new address. So again, instead of making that copy, printing it out and changing it up, just use this make a copy feature. So on my listing documents, because I want to keep those signatures intact, I make a copy, and I make a copy as a flat PDF. So anytime you make a copy, you can copy it as a Dotloop document, or you can copy it as a flat PDF. So on the easy offer, I suggest do a copy as a flat PDF. Back to your loop. And our loop was Crown Street. So, and you can see here, if this were called folder and folder, I wouldn't know where I was putting anything. So you want to make sure you're adding it to the correct folder, hit copy, hit OK. All right, so now I've copied those documents into my easy offer folder. So the easy offer folder is not live yet. It's not anything but a folder at this point. But once you get those documents in there, you can go up here to this setup easy offer. And this button only appears when you are in an active status. If I change this to sold, that easy offer button goes away. So it disables automatically when you sell it, guys. Okay, so set up easy offer, choose the easy offer folder, and hit save. Now you've made this loop not only searchable, but you've got an easy offer that you can access just like Linda had. If I want to, let's say that Mitzi's going out to show my Crown Street tonight, and I want to make sure that she connects to my loop, I can go into this easy offer and I can copy this link, and then I can drop that into an email for Mitzi and say, Mitzi, hope you bring me an offer. Here's my documents. And shoot that off to Mitzi. Then when she opens that up, and that could be with anybody, even if they're not a Dotloop user, they'll be able to access those documents and download them or print them or move them over to whatever, you know, Authentisign, whatever they're using. But just know that you can do that with any agent, and that way you're assured that they connect. So Linda, that's another way that you can make sure, if you know people are sending you, you know, if you know you got multiple offers coming, send them that link. And that way they may never ever connect because they may not use Dotloop, but that's going to connect them to your loop if they are using Dotloop. Also, you can copy and paste this into the remarks in the MLS and just say, if you're a Dotloop user or if you're not a Dotloop user, you can access my easy offer docs at this link, and they can copy and paste that in.
Yeah,
So,
I have done that. I've copied and pasted it in usually, but I realize a lot of agents don't even look at that.
Yeah, sometimes they don't. And I'll give you, if you ever disable this link and then re-enable it, this link changes. So if you ever go into a loop or into an MLS and copy and paste something that says bad link, that means that somewhere along the line that link changed. So the agent needs to update that. So that's the only reason I would say be careful about putting it in the MLS, is just be aware if you disable it, that it does change the link. You get a new link each time. Now, just talking about that make a copy feature, I just wanted to tell you, let's say that I have a contract folder here. Let's just say an agent sent me a contract. We've got the contract. Now we're working on counter offers. Oops. So this is just kind of for pretend, but let's say that we do counter offer number 1, and this is seller to buyer, and let's say purchase price to be $280,000. And let's just pretend that my client signs here and I've saved and shared, and then they send me back, let's say Linda sends me back another counter offer. Okay, if she sends it can edit in private, I can actually, let's just pretend this is Linda's counter offer back to me. Instead of pulling in another counter offer with all that information again, I can actually make a copy of Linda's counter offer, and I can this time copy it as a Dotloop document back to my loop. Okay, contract folder. So now I've just duplicated Linda's counteroffer here for me. But when I go into this one, I can actually modify the document, you know, just the few spots. So now it's going to be, trying to get that auto fill out. I can change it now. It's, why is it doing that? Fun stuff always happens when you're in training. So now it's offer 2, and I want to change it from being buyer to seller, and I want to say, no, we're going to offer 275. So I can change this, and what's going to happen, you veteran agents know, if I do this, if I make this copy and I start making a change to this document, it's going to give me an alert. What's it going to say?
You're getting ready to erase signatures.
You're getting ready to erase signatures. Is that okay on this one? Everybody's scared to answer. Yes, it's okay, because I'm now working in a duplicated counteroffer. I'm not messing with Linda's counteroffer that she sent me. So this, to me, this is a great way to use the make copy feature instead of having to pull a whole new counteroffer in and refill it out. Everything's kind of already filled out. You just have to change a few things, and then you don't have to worry about leaving out a date or changing, you know, anything there, address or whatever. You don't have to fill it in. So to me, if I've got a document, or let's say that you've written trying to get out of this. If you've written a contract and then you get the multiple offer form and you go back to your client and say, hey, they've got multiple offers. We want to up our offer. Well, you don't have to go in and pull another purchase and sales agreement in and redo that. All you need to do is make a copy of the purchase and sales that you had and go in on that copy and modify it, and it will erase the signatures, and you can change the price or the term that you want to change and then reshare. And then if you want to, you can, you know, you can rename these, and I would encourage you, this is going to be counter number 1 or RF. What is it, Bill?
I'm sorry, which one?
51.
Oh,
I'm just joking with you.
651.
Yeah, Bill would name it the RF. I would just be counteroffer number 1 or counteroffer number 2. So organize and label your documents as you go, and that will help a lot. And a lot of people don't know, but you can rename a document right here. So if I want this to be counter number 2, I can do counter number 2 right here. All right, let's see. It looks like we might have. Can we use this feature for the repair proposal to the repair amendment? Yes. So I mean, you can't, well, you're changing documents there, but I do copy and paste. If the repair proposal is editable, like I like for people to send it to me editable, I can take that repair proposal and copy and paste. If I'm gonna send another proposal, then yes, I can just basically utilize the same document. But then when I get to the amendment, I'll just copy and paste what we need back over to the amendment. Why would an agent specifically ask for a PDF to be attached? Ron asked. I'm sorry, I'm catching up here, Ron. So I always send a PDF to the title company and to the lender because they still have to print a paper file. So that just makes it easy for them. But an agent, you know, it's kind of funny because we still have some agents. I actually saw one out of Knoxville who in her MLS remarks had a nice little snippy remark that said, if you're a Dotloop user, do not send me anything through Dotloop. And I just kind of laughed because I can still send her something through Dotloop and attach a PDF and she won't know the difference. But I worked a deal with her last year and she still doesn't like that. And I'm like, why do you care? It comes to you in an email with a PDF attachment. And so it's no different than any other email. So I would just tell her, hey, Dotloop is just an email system too. So you have the attachment. So if you have an agent asking for the PDF, it's because they don't know how to use Dotloop, or they're not, you know, they're not a paperless agent and they want to be able to print it easily without having to look for that print button. But they can print even if they're not a Dotloop premium user. Can we, let's see. Okay. Yeah, but I did get tickled at her snippy remark. Some of you may have seen that listing and know exactly who I'm talking about, but she was like, do not send me anything through Dotloop. And I was like, okay. So still coming. It's going to still come through Dotloop for me.
I have a question and I don't know how to word it exactly. When you started typing, there's certain fields that automatically go in, I've noticed. Like I have it too, but I forgot how to do that.
So that is when you've got, when you're using the clauses, and we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
So actually we can go ahead and skip to that. We'll just go ahead and skip to our template section right now. So what Linda's talking about is in your template section under your documents, at the very bottom, you're going to have clauses. And clauses are those things that you type over and over, and you want to save time. You don't want to have to type them like the word Realty Executives Associates. So you go ahead and just type in new clause, type in whatever wording that you want to use, and save it. And that way it's in your clauses saved. So like this one, seller to pay up to blank towards buyer's closing costs, escrows, discount points, and or any buyer's inspections. And if you've not taken our mortgage class, this is kind of a new way to ask for things. Donna Cry and Donna Bowling were talking, that sometimes, they get a certain amount for a closing cost, but then maybe it's just a little bit high and there's money left over. If you've written this language out, you can apply that to buyer's inspections. You could buy the rate down, some discount points. So if you've got that in there, you can kind of manipulate the rest of that money that's left over. Donna did tell me yesterday that if your buyer is paying for an inspection, she cannot credit that back on the closing statement. And if it's a credit card, or she can't give credit to it if it's a credit card or if it's cash, or if they pay cash for their inspection. But if they do debit or check, she can put that on the closing statement because they can prove that what came out of that person's bank account. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but anyway, that's a clause that we use oftentimes. So Linda, then once that clause is in place, once you're in your loop and you pull in a document, let's see, or I can just go into this counter. Once you're in a field, you can type in the word closing costs or whatever, and it's going to start to or let's see, seller. Something is not working right today, guys. Usually that clause would happen.
I know, but it goes straight to that recording and asks if I want rain or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it will auto-populate in there. You also can, I'm going to try this again. I don't know why it's not doing that. You can also go up here to this clause where it looks like a little filing cabinet drawer, and you can actually choose the clause that you want and add it. But it should auto-populate it in there once you start
typing. Yeah.
Yep. And I've never done that in the counteroffer. It may be in the other fields and not the counteroffer field, but that shouldn't be the case. Try something. It's not purchase and sales. Just curious because that's never happened, so I want to try one thing really quick. Wonder if it will work in special steps. Yeah, it worked there. I don't know why that counteroffer. There's some glitchy things happening today on here. So anyway, that's how you would do it if you were just typing in the field, and it will grab one word. So if the only word you can remember is radon, and you've got that language about radon in there, all you have to do is type in radon, and it's going to automatically pull up any of those clauses that have radon in. Does that answer your question, Linda?
Yes. Yeah, I just couldn't remember how to do it, but I've done it before and then I forgot. But now thanks.
Yeah. And I don't know about. I think most of the veteran agents, that's something I use every single day when I'm writing a contract. Every time I write a contract is auto-populating those things. Realty executives, the address, agent, license number. Pam, I had lunch yesterday with Pam Morgan Robertson, and we were talking about this. She said, Donna, in my account, I have all my information. But she said, sometimes when I pull myself into a loop, it doesn't auto-populate all my information into the purchase and sales agreement at the bottom. Has anybody else had that problem where it doesn't auto-fill this properly? Yes. And so we were playing with it. And so if you go in you're automatically, when you create a loop, you're automatically in there as no role. And once you give yourself that listing agent or that buyer's agent role, it should auto-populate your information into that document. And so in that case, it did not, even on that one, it didn't auto-populate my information on the listing side. So we were noticing that if you do the role change here and not do the role change in view details, it made a difference. So she was going in here and adding herself, but she's already here. She was going in and adding, hang on, she was changing her role here. And for some reason that made a difference in how it auto-populates. You know, this is not a perfect system. There's still some glitches and I'm finding that, but we were talking about that yesterday, is that it's just, things have, there's little tweaks that you have to kind of work through. And if seriously, if you have a problem, call me, because I try to submit those to Dotloop so that they're aware of that issue that's going on. But that was something odd that she had been having happen. It won't auto-populate. And a lot of times it won't, even though our office license number is up here in my account information, it will not auto-populate our office license number in my contracts. And so that's kind of frustrating to me, but because I have those clauses, all I have to do is just type in number 2 and it'll auto-populate up that license number. All right. While we're in this section on our account, if you click on your account, you can create different profiles. Be very careful doing that, because when you create a new profile, it may be a non-premium profile, and you don't want to, if you're using an app and you get an email, somebody sends you a document, you could possibly move a contract to the wrong profile. So be really careful with this profile button. But under this account settings and profiles, this is where you can actually choose your PDF document preferences. If you want it to be bold blue center, you can set that here. It won't work on the TAR documents, but it can work on any PDF document that you do. And then messenger notifications. We went over this in the beginning class, and I'll touch on it again, but we have a new messenger button on Dotloop. And this is where you would put in your phone number and register it, and whether or not you want to get an email every time somebody sends you a message, or if you just want to get a text and a push notification. I personally don't like my emails full enough. I don't want another email. So you can put those document or those messenger notifications in here under the Dotloop Messenger. So you some of you who have not been on that beginner class, right here is your messenger button. So you can actually send messages and documents via this conversation. On the desktop version, this is more a conversation keeper. So all your conversations via text will be saved here. But if you're actually, and I don't know if you guys can see this, let me see if I can let me see if I can open this up and you can see it possibly. But if I open up my app, my Dotloop app, can y'all see that at all? Or is it too bright?
It's kind of bright.
Kind of bright.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I turn it a little bit, maybe. That may not work. Okay, so in this, if you're in Dotloop, if you're in the Dotloop app at the very bottom, I'm sorry guys, I would hope that would show. At the very bottom of Dotloop, it has a messenger button. You can actually go in here and you can start a text thread with people, and you can actually share documents. So if I'm in there and this is going to me, I can attach a document from a certain loop, and it will send their document via a text message to them. So they don't have to open up an email. They don't have to get in their email. They don't have to log into Dotloop. It's actually sent as a text message, and you have record of everything. So I would encourage you, if you're not using the Messenger app, start using it. And for some of us who, we give out our cell phones so easily, our cell phone number. And I'm not saying that's a bad idea. For me personally, I don't like everybody to have my cell number, but you could actually start a conversation with a new client via this messenger and say, hey, this is my business text line, okay? And I answer this business text line up until 9 o'clock every night. And so you're still gonna get the text message to your phone, but when you respond back to them via that text, it's going to not show your cell number. It's going to show your Dotloop Messenger number. Does that make sense? So, but you can delete it from your phone. You can delete that text message from your phone because you're always going to have record of that conversation in the messenger section of Dotloop. Let me see if I can get back to it. Stop sharing my screen, and now I can't find you guys. Where are you? Can you see anything? Screen
Your
on it?
desktop.
It's just the desktop. That is weird. I'll be honest, guys. I don't like. There we go. Sometimes these Zoom calls are just so tough to try to maneuver. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Megan, yes, okay. So
Yes.
that conversation will be in this Messenger Center forever. If you're on the app, there's a little I button at the top. You can export an entire conversation into your Dotloop. So there's a lot of cool stuff here that instead of screenshot and text conversations, if you can start using the Messenger instead, you won't have to screenshot text conversations. It will automatically be saved in your Dotloop on the desktop and on the app. Any questions about that? Let's see. Okay. Bill wanted me to point out to you guys, so where do you get the language that somebody said, where do we get the language to auto-populate in those clause sections? A couple of different places. If you go to TAR, there's a whole section in TAR about clauses that can be added to your contract, but also in the template section, if you go to TAR forms, just type in the word language, and we covered this in the beginning class, but I think a lot of veteran agents don't know this. But if you type in language, you have commercial contract language, and you have just basic contract language. And so these are clauses that are put together by our state attorneys. So, you know, Pat always says, oh, please don't write that contract and be an attorney and use all those big words, wherefore, therefore, there are, all those things. So this is the language that we really should be using. The only thing I will say, this is not a copy and paste thing. So you might want to print this out and then add some of these clauses to your Dotloop clauses. So if you have somebody who is, so if they're making, this would have come in handy. I didn't deal with an agent the other day, and her language on the contingent sale of a property was just really tricky. If she had gone here, this is the correct language that she should have used for the contingency of a sale of another property. So that's there. There's information about radon. If you've got a divorce situation and something has to be approved by a court, language is here for you. So
You have a question. You can import these clauses. I guess it's not a question, but a statement.
can you, no, that's what I was saying. You can't pull them from here. Bill, I guess you can copy and paste from Transaction Desk. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you could pull that up on yes, you could copy and paste from Transaction Desk.
So you would basically go into Transaction Desk and find those same clauses. And
She said you can turn on clauses from the admin side.
I'm not really sure. So is Julia, she's down in Madisonville? Are you a secretary there, or are you on the admin side down there? Okay, Kathy says unmute Julia and explain. Can you unmute her? Because this is something new for me. I don't work on the admin. Okay, Julia, are you there?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead while we're waiting on Julia.
Lorena. I am Lorena.
Hey, Lorena. Okay.
So when you go to the language clauses, you need to copy and paste on the real contract? Or you have,
but not from this document, not from the template document. That's
so
what you would have to go, and not unless Julia knows something that I don't know. But this contract language page, you cannot copy and paste. You can see it's a saved, you know, I can't copy this over.
Okay.
But
And
you
now,
should be able to do it from transaction desk.
okay.
Julia's saying she can't unmute. Let me see if I can try again.
Where is she?
No, I don't.
It shows you are unmuted, Julia. Can you try talking?
Not working. Okay, so she's saying from the admin side she can turn on clauses. Bill, you have any idea what she means by that?
I truly have no idea. I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll get with Julia and find that out. And the next time we have a class, maybe we can have that answer. So somebody said, where is that Dotloop contract language again? It's in your template section.
It's RF 707.
So templates, go to TAR forms right here. And then type in language in the search bar, and that should pull up the two. If that helps. Okay, so I want to tell you guys another thing that's new that I really, really like. And I think veteran agents, if you're on this call and you haven't downloaded the interactive forms, I think this is going to be helpful. So kind of pay attention to how we get there. So if you go up here to your account and you go to your profiles and then scroll down to where your brokerage and associations are, okay? You're gonna add association. When you hit add association, we have Tennessee automatically put in here, but if you will take that out and type in worksheets.
Oh yeah, okay.
If you type, and it's not showing on mine because I've already added it, but if you'll type in worksheets and then add that, you will end up with this worksheets, templates, and guides, okay? Once you add that, I don't know why they've got it under brokerages and associations, but once you add that, then when you go to your templates, you will have two new items down here in your documents. You'll have worksheets and you'll have interactive documents. So I will tell you the worksheets are they're kind of simple, but if you need some practice, like there's a worksheet on how to add signatures and text boxes and strike throughs. And then like there's a hotkey. This is, if you're not using hotkeys, I would encourage you, even if you've not been, doing a whole lot of Dotloop lately, the hotkeys are going to save you a ton of time, just like hotkeys on any computer will. So like if you want to select multiple fields, if you want to add check boxes, it's going to give you the hotkeys to do that. So you don't have to always go up and hit, I've got a message from Scott, I think here. Okay. So if you,
there's a question, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
Jody King said, I could never get it to work that way. I had to get Dotloop to add it directly to my account.
Okay. So we mentioned it, I think the last class, but if you do have trouble, call Dotloop, get them to help add it. But this is really a cool thing, but you can pull this over into a loop. Let me add this to a loop just so you can see. Let's see, Betty Byer, I'll add it there. So the worksheets, basically, they're going to go down through here and tell you how you can add a checkbox. So you can hit your option and your shift key and your check and see, and it's going to add a checkbox or a radio button. If you want to add a text box and practice with that, I'm still in the template section. I'm sorry, guys.
Ron Hill is saying it is requesting a passcode.
Yes, it's going to email you a passcode. Usually it's Looper. Try LOOPER as your passcode. But once you add it, some of these worksheets, then you add it to a practice loop or something, then it will allow you to move a text box and practice. And so like, it's funny, a lot of times I'll see people, we have these big lines for the information, but yet our text box is small like this. So just know that you can grab hold of that little triangle and resize. And once you resize a document, you don't have to pull another text box and resize. You can copy it from up here. So if you look over here to the side, it's going to show me how I copy a field. So I'm going to hit my Shift and C key down. So I'm in this field, copy, and then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to actually paste it. And so it keeps the same size. So if you are working extra hard trying to resize boxes, once you get it sized correctly, you can copy a field. And you can also, so it's wanting me to move this text box down to this using the hotkeys. So if I hold the Shift key down and the arrows, I can move that field down here. So if you've been in my beginner class, we talk about the Shift key is like magic. If you hold the Shift key down when you're adding a signature box, you can add multiple signature boxes without having to go up and add, you know, keep continuing to add. Hit escape and that will drop it off. But if I want to get rid of a field, I can go back and X all these out. But if you hold the Shift key, you can drop multiple. So if you're, just to show you another example of that, I got an email.
Looper does work.
Looper does work? Good.
Yes.
Okay. So that's your passcode to get those. So I'm going to add a document that came to me this morning. If I can find where let me see. Oh, email is adding up. Let me see. Ashley Sparks. So she sent me from the title company. She sent me this PDF, or actually let's look at this. She sent this to me as a docx file. So Dotloop only works with PDF. So if I try to drop this into Dotloop, it's not going to work. It's not going to load it. So I've got to convert it to a PDF. So I just want to show you. So here's their document that they want me to fill out the information sheet for the title company. I'm just actually going to save this as a PDF.
Not seeing it.
You're not seeing that either?
No.
Okay, hang on. Basically, I'm just downloading that as a PDF onto my desktop. Maybe you can see it in a second. So you couldn't see email at all right there?
No, we're seeing your Betty Buyer page.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, so I just basically opened up an email. It came up as a docx. I downloaded it as a PDF onto my desktop, and now I'm just going to browse for it. And right here it is where I've changed it. I'm going to load it up. So when you get these information sheets, guys, from your title companies, you don't have to print this out to fill it out. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to, actually, if this were the situation where I got this for the first time, I would actually make a copy of this and put it in my templates once I finish templating it out. But this is an example of a PDF that you can template yourself. So I'm going to hit add text. And just like we were talking about a minute ago, the Shift key is amazing. So if I hold the Shift key down when I click on add text, it's going to drop multiple text boxes for me into place. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just getting them dropped in there. I know I skipped one, but I'm just trying to show you so you kind of get the gist, okay? I can't drop this off until I hit the escape button. But once I drop those text boxes in, or let's say a signature box, same way, if I hold the Shift key down, I can drop multiple signature boxes here.
Can I do this in the app?
No, you can't do this in the app.
Okay.
Can't do this.
Someone said, sorry, I missed, where do we go for the worksheet?
That worksheet was just sent to me in an email. So when you get these title companies, they will, if you're a listing agent, they typically send you an information sheet. And this is just from Southeast. I've got one from Blunt Title. So when I get these, I try to go ahead and template them so I don't have to do this every time. I save it. So I template it out this way. So I'm dropping those text boxes. And just to show you again, the Shift key, if I want this text box to fully fit this line, I click the Shift key, I move my cursor out to where I want it to go, and I click, and it will extend that. So if I want it to go to here, extend it to there. If I want this one to be a little smaller, I can shrink it up. And so on those hotkeys that I showed you a minute ago in the interactive worksheets, it will show you how to do some of this stuff. So there's all kinds of things that you can do to change the size. And, you know, sometimes we'll change it a little bit bigger, and then all of a sudden that size will change and it doesn't look the same. So you can actually modify this and change the font back to all being the same. So you have control whenever you're doing a PDF. You get this whole menu up here of what kind of text you want it to be, the size of the font, bold, blue, centered. If you've got that bold, blue, center on your PDF templates, like we talked about in your preferences, it will be bold, blue, center. If you've got it a certain font size, it's going to be that every time. But this is how you would template this out. So just pretend if I template this whole thing, I'm going to save it. I'm not going to share it yet, but I want to keep this. If I go to the effort of templating something like this out, I want to make a copy of it. And I want to save this one as a Dotloop document because I want those templates to stay in place. And instead of putting it in a loop, I'm going to send it to my templates and I'm going to put it in my personal documents. Okay, so that next time when Ashley sends me that document, I'm not going to have to go in and change that DOCX to a PDF. I've got this templated document out here now that I can just add to my loop. Does that make sense? Let me see, it looks like we've got some questions.
Yes, and Lisa said she meant where does she find the hotkey worksheet?
Okay, so you're going to get that once you get those loaded. I'm so sorry, guys. This is so hard when boxes are popping up for me and I can't see my screen. Okay, so in the template section, once you do add those worksheets and interactive documents, they'll pop up down here. Now, so for veteran agents that are on here, I think you're going to like this. On the interactive documents, there is actually a net sheet. So I'm going to pull this seller's net sheet up. So you've got a seller's net sheet that when you add it to your loop, it's going to give you 3 options. So let's say you've got a multiple offer situation and you want to put offer number 1, offer number 2, and offer number 3 in here and put the terms in. This seller's net sheet is going to act like an Excel spreadsheet. So it's going to calculate the numbers for you so that you don't have to do the math with a calculator. In the past, we had to template out a document and kind of have to do it, or if you're using Excel, you'd have to convert it to a PDF to put it into your loop. But this one now gives you 3 options. I will say the only thing I'm not happy with on this is if I'm laying out 3 options, a lot of times I want to say this is conventional, this is cash, this is VA. So to show you kind of how I'm doing that, I'm adding a text box. I'm going to add this to Betty Boop's contract folder. So I'm really loving this net sheet. Bill, you're using it too, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Boy, it's handy when you've got multiple offers for sure.
It really is. So here's that seller's estimate net sheet. So I'm going in here and I'm adding a text box at the top of each one of these. Again, I should have held my shift key down. I wouldn't have to do this. There we go. And then I am kind of just making this a little bit bigger for my purposes. And I went ahead and I made it a smaller font. And then that way I can say, okay, this is a conventional. And I can say closes October 15th. So, you know, some of the things that I want them to be able to consider when they're looking at the numbers is also some of the terms. So, you know, I might say this one has a warranty of $580, but this offer is cash and has a warranty of $420. Again, I need to, if I'd sized these, like copied that field again, I wouldn't have had to change this back. But cash warranty of $420. So, you know, you can put different things in here. So let's say this offer is $200,000. This offer is $210,000. They've got a payoff of $140,000. So you guys can see how this is working out. So it's going to show their gross proceeds and then what they're going to net. You can actually have them sign off on it. You can have, if you'll notice it, put the listing agent up here, I think, or I don't know why it put Ron's number. For some reason, it auto-populated that. But anyway, but you can basically put, yeah, it's populating Ron in here because he was the listing agent. But you can put that information in. Another way that I'm using it besides multiple offers is I will put my offer in here as the contract is presented to me. And then we will talk about other options. Okay, so what if you countered them back at this or versus this? Or what if you counter them back at this and I pay for the warranty? So I take that out. They can see what their bottom net line is. And it's just a really handy sheet to have. Let me go back into the template section. No.
Donna, you have some questions.
Okay.
First one, sorry, did you say we have to do something in order for interactive docs to be available? I got kicked off.
Yes, you do. You have to go into your, I'll do this one more time. You go into this
Do it one
account.
more time, Donna.
Yep, go into your account. Go to your profiles. Scroll down to where it says brokerages and associations. And it doesn't work for me because I've already got it, but hit add association.
Mhm.
And like I said, ours is auto-populated to say Tennessee. Delete that out and type in worksheets and it will pop up. And then once you, and Ron, you're on here, so you must have just done it. So once you do that, it actually asks you for a code. And you're going to go back in and add the code Looper, L-O-O-P-E-R. And once you get that added, it will show up here in your brokerages and associations. And once that's added, you can go to the template section and it will be added here. Now, someone on this call had tried to do that after our beginning class, and she actually had to call Dotloop to get them to add it. It was a little bit tricky. If you've been around a little bit, you might go back and search in your email for interactive documents, because Dotloop did send us all an email about a month ago or 2 months ago that said interactive documents. So you can maybe look for it that way. Another one of the interactive docs, there's a buyer's net sheet. This is kind of cool. So if you have that person that likes to get on there and have a mortgage calculator, you can add this mortgage calculator to their loop, and then they can play with it. So they can say, okay, if I want to get a conventional loan and put down 20%, and I want it to be for 30 years or 15 years, and here's the rate that my lender is telling me, you know, and good news, Donna Cry told me last night, it looks like the forecast that for next year, the rates should not get above 3 1/4, little over 3 1/4. So we're not looking at anytime soon rates going way high. So your people are going to know about what their rate's going to be if they're working with a good lender. You know, are we looking at a 3%? Are we looking at 3 1/4 if we do this many years, or are we looking at 2.85 if we're doing 5 years, or I'm sorry, 15 year. So you can send this to your client in Dotloop and they can play with it on their own. Megan, do we have more questions? Looks like popping up.
Yes. Someone asked, is this available on a tablet?
You should still have that on your tablet when you open up your template section once you pull it in. I would really encourage you guys, if you've got a tablet, that's fine, and it's fine to work from the tablet for convenience, but you really need to get on a desktop to set some of this stuff up, because it's just a whole lot easier. Whole lot easier. Any other questions?
Also, Bethany was saying, what was the title of the section to add? I got the hotkeys, but missed what this group of docs was called.
It's the worksheets. So if you're in the worksheet section, there's some little worksheets there, and there's a sheet for hotkeys for a Mac, or hotkeys if you're using a PC.
And then she said the interactive docs is what I missed, but it doesn't pull when I search. I'm sorry, it added when I got the hotkeys. I didn't realize it inputs both of them.
Yeah, it pulls both of these in once you do that and add that as an association. So you may want to play with that. So something that you guys should start to notice. Oh, do we have another question? What was the password again, Daryl? It's Looper, L-O-O-P-E-R, Looper. I really, if you're a new agent, I would encourage you to always use net sheets. If you're a veteran agent and you're not using them, I think you're crazy for not using them. I just think it makes it so much easier to present offers, to make sure that you're not shorting your clients money, you know, finding out. I had an agent the other day that said, oh, we got to the closing table and we were $2,000 having to bring money to the table. And I'm like, did you do a net sheet for them when you listed and when they got the contract? No. What's a net sheet? A net sheet's important, guys. So those are really handy to have now. And just to, you know, like I said, Bill and I've been using a worksheet that we created, but we were having to still plug in the math. And so for that to do it for us, that's really cool. So another thing that's in here is like buyer's checklist. So if you're a new agent, this is great too. So let's say a listing checklist. And this is not going to be exactly the way you do it with real executives, but it's going to give you an idea. So if you're going out to do a CMA, maybe you should create a CMA, or if you're going out to do a listing presentation, maybe you should do the CMA first. Create a listing presentation, meet with your clients, do the listing agreement, add photos, you know, all these things that we do, that it's step by step by step. Create it coming soon, home warranty, order gifts. There's just some basic checklists that they put in there, but I also wanted you to see that we're trying to work at giving you some better checklists too. So if you're in your template section and you're doing a contract and you want to make sure as a new agent that you've got everything, you can go down here to the tasks. So tasks are the same as checklists. Those two things are you kind of used interchangeably, but if you go into the task section, you can go to a contract checklist and it's going to show you every document that could be required. Now, this is what the hub plugs in. They're plugging in a contract checklist or a listing checklist, or when you go to closing, these are the things that they want you to have. Now we are working on, and I think this is some of the things that, Megan, you can help me with this. Did we go ahead and add these in that we've been working on?
Yes, those are the ones we've been using for new listings. And they should be in the order of the templates now, so they're very consistent.
Okay.
Also, someone said, can you print this form?
This is a checklist, so it's not a form. I think, let me go into documents. I think now in your listing documents, there is also a checklist. So like, here's the listing checklist. You could print this one, but they have made it so you could print this once you add it to your loop, but they've made it so that when you add it to your loop, you can actually check these off as you get them. And you'll see this is what Megan and I have worked with Pat on. This is pretty handy because it tells you what is required on all our documents. But then if it's in blue, it'll say required if, required if, required if. So if you're a new agent, we're adding these to our loops also, and you can check these off. Now these are going to be checked off by you, not by the hub, correct, Megan? This is just for us to use.
That is correct. That form is strictly for the agent to use, make notes on, and so forth. I'm not sure if the other offices have that or the new listing checklist that we were talking about, but I do know Marable, it is updated.
I would think if it's in our contract package, somebody might check that real quick. If you go to the listing residential, do you all have that listing checklist residential in yours? Maybe somebody can give us some feedback there. But here I've pulled that checklist in to this loop. So now it's interactive for me. So I can say, okay, I got that font signed, or I've got this signed, or maybe I can make even a note here and say missing husband's signature. So I guess it is. So you can make a note here. I don't know, maybe you get down here to the subsurface and you can put waiting on health department. So this is kind of cool that you can put yourself some notes in here. And yes, you could print this out, but the whole point is, why print it? I mean, it's here for you to interactively use. And see how, Megan, this is something we need to change. So when I type in that, it covers up the next line. So we need to make sure that these are templated so that they don't get too big when you type in. If that makes any sense. We need to be consistent on what we've templated this for. But this does not take the place of the checklist that's going to go in from the hub. You're like I said, this is just for you, especially new agents, or if you're that agent that just forgets things, we're trying to put those in to make it easier for you. And then don't forget, the hub's still going to put in a checklist for you on your loops. And that's going to be at the bottom. That's going to be here at the bottom. So here's my listing checklist. And so usually it says locked. I think they've missed locking it. Right here's my contract checklist, and they've got it locked. So they've checked these things off, and these are the things that I'll need prior to closing.
And I want to point something out. The hub, if you have corrections to make, they're going to put what you're missing in the checklist down there. For example, like line 128 not answered. So if you see a comment that says see task list for corrections needed, that's what we're talking about. See the comments that we've added to the checklist.
So here was an incomplete go and show or appointment required. And that was something I added afterwards. So yeah, sometimes we'll submit for review and have things that are incomplete. And so that's right. That's where they're going to put it. So she's right. When they send you a message, when they get it back, let's see if I can see one thing. I don't think they actually made a comment about it, Megan, on here, but they do. They add it to your checklist. And by me looking at this loop, I can see that some of my tasks are not complete. So I do frequently go down here and check it out. And you can have tasks that you created a document and it's got something for you to do. Like on this situation, I did a net sheet for them, but it's my sister and I didn't have her, we didn't sign it. But I could actually go in here and manually check that off, or I could go in and sign the document. If I click on it here, usually it'll take me to that document. It's loading. So let's say I pull that document up and I can go ahead and hit sign now, and then it will check off automatically on my checklist. And just a note, if this is a problem for you, see how it's checked off? If this is a problem for you and you forget to look at this checklist, you can move this to the top. So if you hit move to the top, when you open up your loop, it's going to be at the very top of your screen. So it doesn't have to be at the bottom. That's one of the things you can move around. You can move it to the top or move it to the bottom. Any questions? All right, we're going to take a quick break. Just I know people have got phone calls to answer and I've got to go get a drink, and I will be back in just a few minutes and finish up that last hour.
Oh no.
Did we finish?
No, we're taking a break,
Okay, thank you.
I think.
So I'm back on. For those of you who are back on, can you see a screen?
Yes,
So you can see Southwick?
yes.
Thank goodness. Megan and I were just talking about this. For some reason, when I try to switch browsers, I can't share that screen. So we're going to play with that for the next class. But let me look on here. I think we have more questions. So while we're waiting on people to come back, I was telling Megan, this is tough to sit through a 3-hour class and not move around. So I hope you all don't mind taking that break, because I got to have it. I got to have it. Okay, let's see. Okay, so somebody did say that they don't have the checklist. So Casey, are you on? Can you unmute yourself? I don't know if she's going to be on checks, but Linda, you were able to find that checklist in the forms? Everybody's still on a break. Okay.
I'm here.
You're there. So you did have that little new checklist that's in the residential listing packet?
Yes. That's
Okay. So it looks like Megan, it looks like some people do have it and some people don't. Lorena, you asked how to get that mortgage calculator again. Once you download that association of worksheets and interactive documents, it will be in the template section down here. Mortgage calculator was one of the interactive documents.
Thank you.
And Starlet, you said you don't see that checklist yet, so we need to work on making sure everybody gets that. How to get the hotkey worksheet, it's also in the worksheet section. So again, these two won't show up, guys, until you do those steps to go to your account and add that brokerage of worksheets and interactive documents. When I do this class in person, do I have handouts? Sometimes I've got handouts I can send to you, but mostly everything, Jody, is here on Dotloop, so you should be able to find that. And some of the people are saying they don't have some of these documents yet, and we are we're working on that. We're trying to get, basically our agents were struggling finding the task list. And, we've had tasks forever. I mean, we've had a checklist forever. We didn't just because we went to Dotloop didn't mean we gave up the task list, but people forget what that task list looks like and where to find it. The problem for new agents is we don't get this checklist put in or this task list put in until after you submit for review. So the whole point in the new checklist is something for you prior to submitting for review. So again, we'll work on trying to make sure everybody has those checklists. So right now we have the listing checklist in the residential package. And again, some of you are not finding that. We have it in lots and acres. Let's see if we have a contract. We don't have the contract package checklist yet. We're still working on it. And we're trying to get the
Sure to share the listing checklist with the other office managers.
Okay.
And they can input it in their Dotloop.
Okay, great. Great. All right, let me see. I think we've got back quite a bit of people. Hopefully everybody's back on. Let's see, we've got another question. Okay, yeah, not in the buyers. Yeah, we don't have a contract. This is just literally something we've started doing over the past few weeks, just because we felt there was a need for it. Agents not knowing what documents to put in. You know, we'd have an agent who would be a buyer's rep and they'd have a contract in there, but no buyer's representation, but yet their confirmation of agency would say they're a buyer's rep. So there's definitely, you know, forms are tough for any new agent, and it's amazing how many veteran agents also do not see or know the documents that they should have. So, all right, so it sounds like you guys are liking that checklist, so we need to give Pat that feedback. Yeah, Lori, we'll help you guys get that. Like I said, we're working on it each day, trying to make it a little bit easier for everybody. All right, so speaking on those tasks again, like I said, it's an underutilized feature of Dotloop. So we do have task checklists, but you can also create your own checklists. You can create a checklist within a loop, a specific loop that's just specific for that loop, or you can create your own template, just like our office does in the checklist. You can create your own. So if you wanted to take one of those worksheets that talked about, you know, like that new listing checklist, all the way down to taking pictures, putting a lockbox on, you can do that yourself. You would do it in this task section. And if it's something you want to create to use over and over and over, you're going to do that in the template section, not in the loop. You're going to do it in the template section. So if you click on the templates again, scroll down till you get to the tasks, and then you'll see all those checklists that our hub has put in for us, but then you can create your own. So like this one, this web links, it's not a checklist I use, but it's something I pull from. So web links for me, I just wanted to put some things that I use frequently. Like if I'm going to send somebody to Justin Harvey or to Donna Bowling or to Donna Cry, you know, I've got a little note in here, apply for a loan, and I've actually added their website and put the web link in there so that when this email goes out to my client or this reminder goes out to my client or myself, all they have to do is click on that live link. So just to give you an example, like if I want them to go to my website, I can add this to a loop and they can go directly to it from that reminder. So if you know, this is one that you might want to go to, learn the Dotloop client experience. This kind of explains how Dotloop is used. So if I add this in to my listing package or my buyer's package before I start working with them, you know, too in depth, I can show them how we use Dotloop. This is a mover's guide that I put in, it goes to the United States Postal Service. So if you don't know this, they can change their address online. It does have a small fee, but they get $400 worth of coupons. So if you send them this, not only are they going to get, or actually $750 in coupons now, but they can basically change their address online and you've kind of helped them along the way. So to show you how that works, sorry, get back to here. Templates, tasks, and then go to add a task list. So it's right up here in the corner on the right-hand side. So what's this task list going to be? Let's say that we're going to do preparing for the home inspection. Okay, I'm going to create that task list. That's going to show up at the bottom down here. So it's going to have the title of this list or what this checklist is going to be, and then I get to add tasks. So let's just say send client 3 suggested inspectors. Or maybe you have 3 inspectors you want to send them. You want to do check out Inspector Clouseau. You could do this with 3 different inspectors, and you could actually go over here to, let's see if I can find Clouseau Home Inspections Knoxville. There we go. So I can get their, I think this was the website that Dusty gave us last week. So I can actually click on it. Yep, and if I can move this screen button here, I'll copy and paste this. Trying to find back where I was at. Whoop. Okay, so check out Inspector Clouseau. Let me edit this. Let me rename this. So I actually paste that link in there so that when I add this into my loop and share it, they can check out Inspector Clouseau's site or East Tennessee Home Inspections or whoever it is you use, Top Choice. So you can actually add a web link in there. That's kind of how I did those web links. It's just copy and paste that link. So send client 3 suggested inspectors. So that may be your reminder, and then these are what's going to go out to your client. So let's check out First Choice, and I might have his link in there. And then let's say schedule home inspection. And I might say repair proposal is due. And then I might say resolution period. Okay, so you kind of get the gist of what I'm doing. I'm just creating a checklist that I may want to use over and over and over for a buyer that I work with. Okay, so I've created that list. Let's go back to Betty Buyer's Loop. So I'm going to pull this checklist in. So I'm going to go down to where my tasks are, and I'm going to load a template. And I'm going to look for my inspection checklist, and I'm going to add it. So now I have created these open tasks that need to be done. So send client 3 suggested inspectors. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to actually say, okay, I need to send that just sometime this week. Okay, and I'm going to assign that to me. So I want that reminder that I need to send my client 3 inspectors. So once I set this up this way, Dotloop is going to recognize, and this week I'm going to get an email that says Dotloop reminder, don't forget to send your client 3 suggested inspectors. Now, if I go down here to check out Inspector Clouseau and I want this reminder, I want to go to my client, let's just say that I'm going to send that on a specific date. So I want that to happen on the 30th. So my client, I'm going to assign it to Dolly. I think Dolly was in this one, or maybe she wasn't. Or let's just say I want to send it to Ron. I want the other agent to have this reminder to send. Basically you can assign who's going to get the reminder, when they're going to get it, and then you can even add another task so that after they do this next task is going to happen. So you can actually layer those to be, I guess, put into place based on whatever the task that they just completed. So you can kind of see how you can go down through here and schedule the home inspection. So this is going to be for everybody. You might want to assign it to yourself and to the other client, and then also put that certain specific time period, because we know when the repair proposals are due. We know when the resolution period's due, so we can make that for a specific date. Now, when you do these things, Dotloop doesn't know that you sent that email. They don't know if your client called Inspector Clouseau. They don't know if you actually scheduled it. So these checklists, you have to manually check off yourself as they get done. And I use this example. This is kind of like my little yellow sticky note checklist anymore. So let's just say in this particular Betty Buyer's Loop, I need to myself remember to get a random, I don't know, maybe, well, an oil tank reading. So I use that often. So in this situation, I'm actually going to add a task just for this loop and say, don't forget to call Heritage Propane and get oil reading or tank reading. And I need that to happen 2 days before closing. Here it is. So I'm going to assign this to me. And I want it to happen on a certain date. So I set that date. Now I'm going to get that reminder that I need to be calling Heritage Propane. And not only am I going to get it in an email, but if I go into my taskbar and things that are assigned to me, and it's not happened yet, but it's going to give me, right here it is. So these are overdue things. And it's funny. So like most of these are documents I've pulled in and failed to sign properly, or maybe I didn't use them. And again, if I get them done, I can check them off myself and that's going to go away. But right now I've still got an assignment to me to call Heritage Propane and get that tank reading. Is that helpful to anybody? Could you guys see how to utilize that to help you guys? I mean, I feel like the whole point in going to Dotloop is to become paperless. And so we still have so many people that make notes, and this is the place that you can make those notes.
Someone's asking, can you set a text alert for task reminders?
Go up here to your, I don't think there's a text alert, but you can get a Dotloop notification. So if I go to my accounts, profiles, I think it's just document document preferences. Hang on a second. Right here, sorry. Notification settings. So let's see if there's anything about a task. Yes, daily task reminders, you can get an email, but you can't get a text. I didn't think you could, but you can get notifications. Actually, no, you can't. I thought you could. I guess I see that come up on my notes. That task reminder comes up in my email, and I guess that's what I'm thinking that shows across my screen for my Dotloop app. So you can just get the email. If you don't want to get the email and you just want to look in Dotloop each day, you could take that off. But that's where you would find that. Under your profiles, get to your choose your profile and then scroll down to your notification settings. Do I have another question? Oh, I keep sharing this wrong. Oh, good. Joel went in there and typed in, if anyone missed how to get the interactive documents, here's the guide. Joel, did you find that on the support page? I'm assuming you did. That's a great tip. So thank you for sharing that. So if you guys will look in your Zoom chat message there, you can see where he put the link in to get that. So you might want to go ahead and click on that and save that. All right, so there's where you can put those tasks in there that are assigned. You can create personal tasks, but I also use, and if you've been in the beginner class, you will see that I also use the message box here to make my notes. So we all think about this message box as being when we share a document, the conversation, I guess you could say, happens in that message box and it saves those emails. So if I look at Hollister and I go to this chat box, actually this one's not going to have too much, but here's where Bill sent me a contract and he just wrote me a message, contract and disclosures. So a cool thing that you can use instead of pulling up your Gmail, so if I want to send Bill a message right now, but I'm not sharing a document with him, I can message him through this message box. So right here, so here's Bill. I'm going to choose Bill, or I can choose my client, or I can choose the other client, but I'm going to choose Bill and I just type him a note. Hey, any word on our counter? Bill, don't forget this is fake because actually the counter's in my field now. But there's our conversation. So we can look back and see our conversation. If I want to send a group message, so I want to do a new note, and I want this to be between Bill and maybe Andrea in the hub and Brittany in the hub, I can choose those people and send a note to all those people. I can also just make a note for myself. So if I want to remember something, new note, I can say follow up at 2 p.m. with seller, or appraiser is coming out at 4 p.m. If I just want a note, instead of writing it on a sticky note, instead of writing it on your calendar, just put it here in Dotloop, and that way you have it. So now that note is just for me. So don't forget to use your notes section. All right. Any questions? All right, I wanted to talk about this search bar too. You're searching, the search bar has really evolved over the last 2 or 3 years. If you're searching for, remember, this is your search bar. So if you're searching for one of your loops, let's say it's something that closed 6 months ago, you can actually go into this search bar and type it in. So if I want to look for Savannah Park Drive, it's going to first say no results are found, because right now I'm looking at active loops and I don't have an active Savannah Park. But let's say that you're looking for Savannah Park to get the closing disclosure to send to them so they can take for their taxes. You can still plug in Savannah Park and then hit search all loops right here. And Savannah Park will plug up. And you notice it's highlighted, so it's pulling up anything that says Savannah Park. So I can go from here and say, okay, which one was the Savannah Park I'm looking for? So I can say, okay, this is the one. So I want to look for 209, but I want to look for my listing loop. So I can actually click on it and pull up my Savannah Park listing. Now, the reason I show you this one is because this was a listing, and I just kind of want to show you how I organize the documents. But this was originally a listing that Pat McGill had, okay? So she created the loop, and she did a folder of listing documents. So you can see that those listing documents are in this folder, and they are labeled for me as original listing folder. So I never go back in there, but I'm not going to create a whole new loop just because I created this, because I'm getting this listing. So Pat and I were working on this together. Now, if that were a different agent and different office, yes, I would create a new loop, but there's just no point in creating a second loop or a third loop just because something changes. So I went ahead and kind of compressed that original listing folder, and then I created a new folder, and I called it New Listing 6/17. So that was the date of list. So I put my documents in here. In this situation, it was an estate. So I did have estate documents, and those are not things that the hub needs to really see. I mean, maybe they need a POA or something like that, but that's a good example of another reason to have another folder. Like I said to you guys before, I see a lot of agents who will go in and they'll do repair documents in a separate folder. You really don't need that. Anything that has to do with your contract should be in your contract folder. So don't make too many folders because it's going to make it more confusing. But if you do want to keep something separate, so maybe you have a receipt folder. So maybe you've got receipts that you want to keep for a transaction on repairs. You could create a receipt folder because, again, the hub doesn't care about that. And you can still share those documents with people in your loop, but just kind of keep that a little bit more organized. So again, you'll see contract folder, new listing, original listing, here's my easy offer, and then I have my estate documents. So this is a good example of how I had multiple folders, but when I was working this deal, none of this stuff was open. The only thing that was open was my contract folder because that's the only one I'm working with. So again, if you end up with a listing loop and then someone brings you a contract loop, go ahead and work from their contract loop. If you have not been able to connect, don't make more work for yourself. Don't bring those contract docs over to your listing loop. Just work out of that contract loop, submit through that contract loop, and you'll be fine. And then archive both when it closes. Is there any questions on that? Looks like we may have one. Okay, Lorena, yes. So all new agents, this is overwhelmingly confusing because you don't have any reference to how to use it until you get a few contracts or a few listings under your belt. There's no relevance to this Dotloop. So you're just getting just a little bit of information to get you accustomed. And then as you start doing business, it's going to make more sense. Would you agree, Bill?
I'm glad that I have your number.
You're welcome to use it anytime.
Okay.
Anytime. So yeah, it's just going to take some time for new agents to figure this out and how to use it. But just, try not to make duplicate loops, try not to make duplicate contract or folders, and try not to keep duplicate documents. So I always, I've shared this in the other class. I keep this book with me, this I Spy book, because it's one of those things that I used to use when I taught kindergarten. And, you know, you was like, okay, find the spool of thread among all this. That's kind of how the hub looks at our loops. They can't find anything because we don't have it labeled. We have multiple signature copies, like we might have a confirmation of agency that has one signature, then a confirmation of agency that has two signatures, then you have the final confirmation of agency that has everybody's signature. Well, you don't need to keep those confirmation of agencies with partial signatures. Archive those. You can always go back and get them. Always go back and get them. All right. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit too about host in person signing, because I think it's something that's underutilized. So if I had Betty Byer here with me, let's say Betty is 82 years old, she's pretty spry, but she's selling her house and she really doesn't want to do Dotloop. She doesn't want to do electronic signature or pull up her email, although Betty has to have an email. So you can set, I think it's real important that we know how to set up somebody a really quick Gmail account, help them go in, help them verify who they are, just so that account's set up, and then they never have to go into that email account ever again. But to use Dotloop, you do have to have an email account. So let's say Betty is sitting here with me and I need Betty to sign her documents. So let me go in here and let me just pull up a purchase and sales and a confirmation of agency. There we go. So I'm going to pull those documents in. And let's just say that the purchase and sales is complete. I've got it all filled in and I am saving it. And let me go down here and get Betty to have a place to sign. All right. So I'm going to actually manually assign for Betty Byer to sign. So I'm going to add her as a buyer because I still haven't done that. Betty. Actually, let me call her Dolly. Betty's just changed her name to Dolly. Not working. There we go. So I'm adding Betty, or Dolly as my buyer. Goodness gracious. If you've got a Mac, you never want to see that spinning wheel. Okay, so I've got Dolly assigned here. So like I said, Dolly's sitting in front of me or Betty's sitting in front of me and she doesn't want to have to go into her email. I'm going to have her sign her documents right here with me. Host in person signing. So when you've got a document open, and I apologize guys, this Zoom screen keeps coming up in front of my screen and I can't see what I'm doing. Hang on, let me see if I can move this. No, I don't want to share it. Okay, so let's say that both of these documents I want Betty to sign. I can open up individually and do a host in person signing, but if you've got multiple documents that you want Betty to sign, then you're going to actually click on the both documents you want her to sign and hit open. And the reason you do this is because what it's going to do is it's going to tell Betty, it's going to tell you to hand the device over to Betty, whether that be your computer, whether that be your phone or your iPad, it's going to tell you to hand it over to Betty or Dolly. And she's going to sign. It's going to log you out of your agent Dotloop, and it's going to basically log them into their client account, okay, Dolly or Betty's client account. And so when they finish signing, you're going to have to log them out and log yourself back in. If you do each individual document, you have to do that. You have to log in, log out, log in, log out, and it's a pain. But if you check all the documents that you want signed and hit open, then you will have access to all of them at once, all the way down to the confirmation of agency. Then you can do the host in person signing. So the host in person signing is under this More button. So when you hit host in person signing, yeah, I want to save the changes. It's going to say, who do you want to sign? I want Dolly to sign or Betty to sign. So I'm going to hit continue. It's going to tell you hand over this control to Betty or Dolly. And once Dolly has completed signing, you have to sign back in as the agent, okay? So begin signing. Okay, now if you know, when we're going into this new screen, this is how your client looks. Remember, I was trying to share that screen a few minutes ago with you so you could see it, and I couldn't share that screen from a different browser, but this is exactly how they see it. They don't have the Dotloop title to the document up here with can view only or can edit in private. Theirs opens up like this, start signing. And like I said, when you click on this, it immediately takes them down here. So you need to show Betty while you're talking to her, okay, Betty, let's go over this contract. Maybe you go over it here with her, and then you get down here to where Betty can sign, and she can click, or Dolly can sign, and she'll click here. So when she pulls up her signature box, this is how it looks, just like you when you're signing a document as an agent, pulls this up. I'm going to stop here. When you have somebody pulled up at this point and they have an adopt signature box, they can modify their signature by going up here into the typed area. They can add a middle initial, or they can add, a lot of times we'll have people who have been a buyer or a seller, and now they're maybe selling their parents' estate. So now they're the executor of the estate. So they can modify how their signature looks right here. And then they can adopt and sign. It's telling Dolly she's got another place to sign. So when there's another place to sign. So see how it's prompting her where to go to sign this document, and then finish signing. Now, this is what confuses agents for the first time when they do this. They think she's finished and they forget that they're not in their loop. So it's asking Dolly to give, a rating. It's going to ask Dolly if she wants to meet any of these service providers. Nah, we're going to skip that. And then it's going to ask Dolly to sign up for a loop. Well, no, she's not wanting to do this online, so we're going to skip that out. But I'm going to actually have to close her out, because right now I was in her loop. So now I'm having to go back into my loop. And when I go back in, those documents are now signed. So you can actually do that host in-person signing very, very easily. You still have to have Betty or Dolly with an email address, but they never have to go into an email to use it. Let me see, it looks like we have a couple of questions maybe. Okay, some people are stepping out. That's fine, no worries. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, while I'm saying that you have to have that email address, don't forget to really talk to your clients about how to use Dotloop, because we forget to tell them to sign up for free, because it's a tool for them. It's a listing tool. So when you go, you can say, hey, I work with realty executives. You're going to get a free home warranty during the listing period, but you're also going to get free Dotloop, because we use a signature program called Dotloop, and you can utilize it for your own personal use, but it will cost you nothing unless you start using it a lot. Then they may ask you to pay for a premium account also. So Dotloop is a real estate platform. However, people can use it for their own personal use. So to give you an example, when we first started using Dotloop, I was on a trip with Leadership Blunt going to Nashville. One of my kids needed a something from school, like a permission slip signed. So basically he took a picture of the permission slip. I loaded it into Dotloop via my app, because you can convert a picture to a document or a PDF in the app, loaded that into the app, dropped in a signature box, signed it, and emailed it to his teacher. So the signature program is not just for real estate. So you remind your clients, hey, you've got this, you can utilize it. So it's free, so it's a tool. So use it as a listing tool also. They may never use it, but they kind of think it's cool that you're giving them something for free. Actually, you're giving them two things for free with that home warranty also. So don't forget to use it that way. But just when you set them up, you have to have an email address. And people always ask, well, can the husband and wife share an email address? No, you can't use it that way. And we have agents who are using it that way, where they're actually changing that signature, like I showed you a minute ago, and putting Bill and Betty Brown. You can't do that. If that's not going to hold up well in a court of law, that two people actually signed on the same email, because there's no paper trail for that. So always make sure that both your parties have an email address, and that may be that the husband says, or the spouse, or partner says, I don't want a separate email address. Okay, well, just for this purpose, we're going to create this. You never have to log into it. Just create, because what happens is that email address is used as a login. So just like a lot of your accounts that you sign up, maybe you're doing some shopping online, you sign up as a user ID with your email address. Same way with Dotloop. Your user ID is your email address. So when they go on here and you sign out, right here, this is where they're going to log in with the email address that you set them up with. They can put their password in, and they never actually have to go into email. So I hope that makes sense. And I told this in the first class, or the beginner class, I had a client who worked for RLRNL, and he was security, and he had a phone that he used with a business, with a work email. And that's what he gave me to sign up for Dotloop. He gave me his work email. So once we started getting a contract, it happened to be on a weekend that I needed him to sign documents. And he said, oh gosh, Donna, I didn't realize, but I don't take my work phone home, so I don't have access to the work email until I get back to work on Monday. And I said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because you're not logging into your email. You're logging into Dotloop. So he was able to use his email, his work email address, to log into the interface Dotloop, and it never went to his, it went to his email, but he didn't have to get to his email to do his document signing or to view his documents. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so Katie, you asked, how do you set up an email address for them? Gmail is the easiest thing to use. Google Chrome is the easiest browser to use with Dotloop. You're going to have less issues with it. But if you go to Gmail and just set them up a basic email address, you can do it in a matter of minutes. If you've never done that, or if you've forgotten how to do it, go practice, set up an email. It will, the very first time, it will ask them to log in to just verify that they are who they are, and then they never have to go in again. But it takes literally 2 or 3 minutes to do. So just practice that. Go ahead and practice getting on Gmail and setting up a free Gmail account. And going back to the Google Chrome, I know Beth Pankratz, the lady who taught us the construction class a couple of weeks ago, she had an issue with Dotloop. And I asked her, I said, which browser are you using? She said Safari. Well, I use Safari all the time too, but for some reason, some of the other browsers, Safari, Firefox, they don't always work exactly perfectly with Dotloop, especially if Dotloop does an update. So Google Chrome is always more on top of it. So if you can get in the habit of logging into Google Chrome to do Dotloop, that's probably your best bet. Or if you run into a little issue where a glitch is something's not working properly, try it in Google Chrome. Also, just a tip, Yahoo email is very slow sometimes with Dotloop. So I'll have people say, hey, they got an alert on their Dotloop app, but they can't, the document's not in their email to sign. So again, don't forget, you don't have to go into email to do it. You can have them log in here, but Yahoo sometimes will get backlogged, and we will see Yahoo accounts not get those documents for like 6 or 7 hours later. I think, is Diane Fox still on this call? I think she had that problem back maybe a
Yes, it was horrific.
Yes, it was terrible. So you just have to get them onto the login site instead of doing it through their email. I thought that was you that had that. Anybody else?
Yes, it was, but I didn't realize they didn't have to go through their email, so that's something good to learn.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, let's see who else. I missed any questions here? We've had a lot today. All right, let me log back in. Bill, while I'm logging back in, is there anything that you think that I should cover in this advanced class that we're missing?
You're doing good. Let's see here.
I'm going to talk about filters next.
Okay.
And I will quickly say, if you were not in the beginning class, don't forget that right over here on the very far right, you can change the view that you have. I like to look at the compact view because it's just basically the loop name, the type, and status. If you like to look at a little bit more information, you can do the list view. And from here, you can actually modify things. And then a lot of people still are looking at this grid view, which is what your clients see when they log into Dotloop. I'm not a fan of this because just once you get going, you've got too much there to look at and have to scroll. So again, don't forget you can switch to these different views. Okay, another thing that I use a whole lot that I think agents don't even realize is there is which loops show up to the top. So you can sort your loops. I usually keep mine on last updated if I'm working in here, so that if I close out a loop, the one that I touched last is going to show up at the top. But then sometimes I might want to look at what's getting ready to close, so I can get ready for making sure that I have things, so I can see that these are getting ready to close, and it'll put them in the order from closing. You know, if I want to look for, let's see, something that I don't know, by price, what are my higher price things? You know, it's going to sort those in whatever field that I've selected here. And then you can also reverse that. So if you want the lowest price or the highest price, you can do that too. So just a quick tip there. Filters. So when we first started doing Dotloop, we didn't really have a whole lot of options among the filters. And so if I'm looking for something really, really old, I may go here to all things that I've archived and apply that to find a loop, because just in the beginning, we didn't have that many choices to filter things out. So now when you click on the filter button, you're going to have custom filters. And if you don't have that yet, nothing's there. You're going to have this option to look at hiding your archives, look at only archives, or look at all your documents. Then you have loop type, and then you have loop status. So I'm going to tell you, and you have more things down here, stages, but for you as an agent, the only thing you really need to be concerned with is loop status. Because typically when you create a loop, it's going to ask you, is this a listing for sale? Is it a purchase? So you're automatically going to have those labeled for you. You can label things as a no transaction. So if you want to work on a practice loop, you could do that. But loop status is the most important things to filtering. So I always say, if we were paper agents again, and you walked into my office, I would have had filing cabinets. I would have had a small filing system on top of my desk, because the things that were on top of my desk were all active listings, active buyers, active listings, things I'm currently working on. Then I would have a filing cabinet drawer that had everything that had expired, or everything that I had written contract-wise that didn't work out. And then I had a drawer of solds. So if you think about loop status as being your filing system, just like we did with a paper file, it becomes important. Otherwise, you have chaos and clutter. So I keep the loop statuses that I want to look at, or all the things that I want to see on my desktop as active loops. I want to choose things that are active statuses. So private listing, under contract, new listings, pre-listing, actives, pre-offers, in progress. All those things are active statuses. I don't want to look at my solds. I don't want to look at things that have been withdrawn or things that fell through. So those things are not checked, okay? I do check no status, and I tell this in every class because I still get this phone call. Somebody will come in, they will create a loop, they will go and type their address, hit continue, they'll say listing for sale, but they will not give it a status. So just like if you all remember a few minutes ago, Betty Buyer was actually a purchase, but it was no status. Now, once you give it a status, that goes away, but it was no status. And so what happens is the agent creates that loop, then they go off to lunch and they come back and they're like, I know I created that loop and I can't find it. So I always ask them, go to your filters. Do you have no status checked? If you don't, when you close out of that loop and go to lunch, it disappears. You're not going to see it up here. So that's why I would suggest you do click no status. So if you want a screenshot or take a picture of that, these are the active statuses that I keep up, so that when I hit save and filter, that's the only thing I'm looking at in my Dotloop. And I will tell you, 9 times out of 10, I'll look at agents. They are not using this at all. They are looking at every loop they've ever created, and it's a mess. It's a mess. So go in and choose those statuses. Now, once you create that, you can do custom statuses. So if you want to look at just your solds, I can clear these out. And I can choose sold. Okay, I just want to look at what I've closed. So I can hit save, and I can type in a filter name and say closed sales. Okay. And then create and apply. Now, up here in my custom filters, I've got closed. This was the one that I already had, but here's the one that I just created. So close sales, okay? So if I go to close sales now, and I have filtered it, which I did, now when you look at my loop, when I've refreshed, all I've got is sold sales. So if I want to find the last sold sale, so let's look at closing date. I want these to be by closing date sorted. And you can see my first closing that I did on Dotloop was in February of 2015. If I want to switch that around, the last closing I did was August 28th, 2020. So you can look at all your solds. Or let's say that I want to filter back to my actives, apply it. So it's refiltering. Now I'm looking at all my actives. Let's say I get a phone call and the folks on McNutt Street, who we closed 3 years ago, they want a copy of their closing statement for their title attorney or whoever. So I'm going to pull up McNutt. And remember, this is not an active listing right now. So I'm going to hit that search all loops, pull up my old listing. And notice I'm not changing my filter out yet. I didn't have to find this. Now I go into this contract folder that we closed. I pull up that settlement statement and I can reshare it. When I filter back, I'm still in my active statuses. So you can search for things that are not filtered, or they're filtered away, but you can also go in here and filter to those closed again, hit apply, and look for it that way. So I could look for McNutt that way. There it is. Another cool thing about that search bar, we were talking a minute ago that you can search by address, title, MLS. You can also search by client name. So if you can't remember the address of somebody, what they bought, but you remember their name, they call you up and they say, hey, I want this. You can type in their last name and it's going to search for sellers and buyers. And then it's going to go to Queen Road. It's going to find anything that had the word Queen in there. So if you can't remember if an address was 123 or 132, you type in 123 and it's going to start looking for things that have 123. Or one, and then it's going to switch to 132. So it's called a muddled search. So the search bar is pretty sophisticated in Dotloop. Go back to my filters. I want to change it back to my actives and I want to hit apply. So when we have a loop and it's submitted for review, they're going to put these little tags in here. And that's another thing that you'll see in the filter section, but you don't mess with it. So like this is a double-sided deal. It's my sister. I'm actually not taking a commission. So you can see that the hub has put these notes in here. But when you go back to your filter section and look, you can see all those options of what the hub puts in as tags for you, but you don't need to mess with this. We're so lucky. Sometimes when I'm looking at some of the Dotloop trainings, the admin side that we have provided for us, other agencies don't. They have to create this stuff and do those tags for themselves. We don't have to mess with anything but our loop status. So when you get a deal, let's say when that Southwick closes, if you look at it, the hub will put on there double-sided, no commission. Once this closes, it will say closed. Okay? Just because they put the tag on it to say closed doesn't mean that you haven't filtered it away. You still have to go and make it sold. Okay? If you have linked up your Zillow, if you've missed this in a previous class, if you've linked up your Zillow account to your Dotloop account, you can actually ask for reviews right here. So you can send your clients a review, send them a message. You can retype that message and send out that request. And so that's a really cool thing. If you've not set up that Zillow review yet, let me put this back under contract. You can go link your Zillow account under your profile. If you scroll down right here, Zillow Premier Agent, you can link those two. So if you're a new agent and you're on Dotloop, that's something you would want to make a note to do is set up your Zillow account. I think they go over that in the new agent class on how we set up our Premier account with Zillow, and then you can link those two together. Let's see, do I have a question? Okay, what do you do when someone sends you a document to sign but not in PDF form. So Sharon, is it a like if it's a templated document, all you have to do is go down there and sign wherever they've assigned you to sign. But are you saying, what do you do if they send you a document and it's not editable? Is that what you mean? Can you unmute? Yes, okay. So if someone sends me a document as view only, I'm trying to remember, I had one the other day, I can't remember which loop it was. But if they send it to me in my Dotloop and it's uneditable, I go ahead and make a copy of it. Again, I make a copy of it as a flat PDF and then I drop a signature box in. I don't know if that makes sense, but let's say that this, let's say this disclaimer notice was sent to me. And it's funny, when you get a document that's sent to you, right up here, not if you can see it, it will tell what permission you have underneath the document name. So what Sharon's talking about is if they send this disclaimer to you and it says view only, it acts like it's just a PDF. So in that case, I would take that disclaimer notice, I would checkbox it, I would make a copy as a flat PDF back to my loop, and then I would assign a PDF signature box to it. Let's see, does that answer your question, Sharon? Okay, good deal. Another tip for especially veteran agents on here, when you're pulling in a document that is from our template section, and it's anything that Realty Executives or Dotloop has made for us, those documents are already pre-templated. When I mean that, I mean that the fields are interactive. So let me just close this out a second. Okay, so these fields are interactive. I can type in these fields. When I share back to another agent, can edit in private, they can go in and they can also modify those fields. But what we have a problem with is agents will get this interactive document, and instead of them just going in here and assigning it to their client, they're going up here and they're adding a signature box on top of another field. Now I've noticed Dotloop lately, sometimes it'll say these fields cannot overlap, and I like that because it was such a problem. But there's still a few documents that'll let you do it. And we were having agents add a signature box over top of a templated signature box, and when you share it back, you can tell there's a signature under there, but the templated box is going to be in front of the box that you added. And so you may get a document signed, but nobody can see that signature when you share it back. And even if you try to print it, it's going to always put that templated document box in front of the one that you added. So make sure if the document that's been shared to you is templated, make sure that you don't template it again. All right, any other questions?
Let's see.
I feel like there is something that, oh, I know what I wanted to do. Okay, going back to that support Dotloop page, integrations, that's changed. So if you go to integrations, you're going to have lead generations and CRMs. And so if you're an agent and you're using Follow Up Boss, or you're using Contractually or Boomtown, you can go to these, or RealVolve. You can find out how to integrate your Dotloop account with these CRM systems that you're using. Now, if you were in the tools class, you know that Realty Executives offers Prime Agent to you free. If you're in the integrations button, Prime Agent is not under lead generation and CRM. It's actually under marketing, automations, and more. So if you, again, let's go to that again. Integrations, marketing, automations, and more. So this has more things. So if you're using Google Sheets, there's also a Premier Agent here, but if you will keep scrolling down, you'll see that Realty Executives International has chosen for us to have Prime Agent for free. So I'm just going to show you this because this is trickier to find, but now they're tweaking this so that we can get a little bit better information and training. So when you get to Realty Executives Prime Agent integration, there's a video here for you to watch. I'm just going to
Dotloop and REI are now integrated. From the Prime Agent home screen, go to My Account, and then log into Dotloop. This will SSO us into Dotloop. To create a loop from Prime Agent, go to CRM, then click on Contact Manager. Click the Select Action button next to the contact you would like to create a loop for and choose View Edit. There are two ways to create a loop from here. You can click this Create New Loop quick link, or scroll all the way to the bottom and click Loop It. The first time you add a loop, you will have to sign in to create your Dotloop account. Once you enter your username and password, you will see a box asking for your authorization to link your Dotloop account to your Prime Agent account. Click Approve. Click Loop It, then add your loop information. All of your accounts will be loaded into the Select Profile dropdown. Select your template, select the transaction type, select the status, enter the address, and if applicable, you can add additional people. Then click Add. This brings you into the loop. All loops contain 3 key sections. 1, all of your documents are here. 2, all the people we'll be working with. You see on this example, we have Joe Broker and Jenny Broker. Your admins will be listed here if you've set up an account with Dotloop. And any local service providers, whether that be your mortgage, your title company, whoever you're working with. The third section is tasks. So you can have tasks outlined here. You can have task templates you can preload specific to your account to remind you and your buyer and seller to do certain things. If you need to bring in other documents, you can browse from your computer or email documents in.
Okay, I'm stopping because that just gives you an example of how much information they will share with you very quickly from this support screen. So again, if you're a new agent and you haven't been to the very first class, we will talk about Prime Agent, but that just shows you how you can link your Prime Agent account to your Dotloop. So instead of going in and putting your people in Dotloop immediately, go build your contact base in Prime Agent, add your contacts there, and then when you're ready, you can create those loops. And again, remember, if you pull in this Joe Executive loop, and then you want to find a searchable listing, click on the View Details section, scroll down to the address and search from there, and then boom, you've created and attached to the listing loop. So I just wanted to show you that because like I said, this Dotloop support page has changed so much, and the integration part is again down here under marketing and information and automations. And so find the Realty Executives Prime Agent. All right. There's also videos up here. Before they had a full tab on mobile. So if you want to go to the mobile trainings, you can choose whether you have an iOS or if you have an Android phone, and you can actually do training on those phones. Real quick, while we're here in this part, I wanted to show you how to, I think there's going to be, I thought it would be here. Let me see. Converting picture. I had said earlier, you can convert a picture to a PDF using the app. Let's see. I thought there was an actual little tutorial on it. So yeah, so you can scan a document from all these different options. So if you pull up your mobile app and you go into the loop, each loop will have a plus sign where you can add a document. When you click on that add document, it's going to give you several choices. It's going to say, do you want to scan a document? Do you want to add a photo? Do you want to pull something from your templates? Or maybe there's a photo in Dropbox, something from email. It gives you all these options, but this scan a document makes your phone become a scanner to PDF. So if I'm sitting at a closing table and I want to scan my 3-page CD or 3-page Alta statement, I can actually take pictures of all 3 documents, and then I can kind of tweak those down and reshape them, resize them, and make a really clean document. And me personally, I submit for review at the closing table. I'm going to take a picture or a photo of my commission check. Everything I do is going to be right there at the closing table using my mobile app phone. I will tell you a tip. If you scan a document via your mobile app phone, that file is bigger than if you went to our computer printer scanner. And I tell you that because when you share documents in Dotloop, there is a limit to the PDF size that you can share. Normally, you don't have any problem, but if you scan that document, if you scan a 10-page contract via your mobile app, that file is going to be way larger, and you may not be able to send 3 different documents if you've scanned it that way. And I don't know if anybody, Amy Fowler had that problem. She called me yesterday. She said, I can't share this. It's saying it's too big. And I said, so what did you do? You know, how did you get that scanned in there? And she said, well, I was actually in Powell. I didn't have a scanner. So I took a picture of all the documents, purchase and sales, confirmation of agency, everything. So she couldn't even split it apart to be able to send it. So just keep that in mind. That's probably the only time I will print. If I get back to the office and something won't send, I'll print it and rescan it here so that it's a smaller file so that I can share. Melissa's gone. Thanks, Melissa. Okay, we're down to the last 10 minutes. Any questions? I always try to keep the end for questions. No questions. Anybody having a problem that they've had happen and they're still trying to figure that out? Bill, do you have anything to add? Bill may be gone. I may be the only one left on this call. No, I'm just kidding. All right, if you have not put your name in here so that Megan can take, it looks, I'm scrolling through, I think everybody's got their first and last name. I think we're good. So we are finished with Associates U for this session. We're not going to start back up until I think October the 14th with the new Associates U. So if you're a new agent on this class, we're going to start back up in October, and we'll go to right about the week before Christmas and finish up. So if you missed something in the previous Associates U, you can catch it on the next time around. Looks like
we do have one question. Where is Dotloop support?
Okay, so if you are in a loop, let me close this out because I can't see my screen. Okay, so anytime that you're in Dotloop, all you have to do is click on a loop, open it up, and scroll to the very bottom of the page. That will get you to the Help Center right here. But if you just want to type it in, or if you want to save it on your computer, it's support.dotloop.com. Support.dotloop.com. And then also, if you need to call them, just call this number. They're going to ask for this member ID because they're going to actually go into your loops to see what the problem is. And so make sure you have that number handy when you call Dotloop.
Jody King asked, it looks like you had 2 different loops on one listing. One as a purchase and the other as a listing. Did I see this correctly? And if so, help me understand.
Okay, so yes. So on 1070 Southwick Drive, this was my listing. And if you look, I've got a listing folder. I've got an easy offer folder, which my easy offer folder has been disabled. I think it happened when I changed that a few minutes ago, so I need to make that live again. Okay, and Amy, just to kind of give you the scenario behind this, Amy Fowler connected to my loop properly. She searched for my loop, she connected to it, and she wrote me an offer. Her offer was contingent upon another house selling. So in the meantime, another agent who is not with Realty Executives created her own loop on Southwick. And right here it is, Kara Edenfield. So she brought me an offer. So I'm going to show you guys what I did. So Kara, and I've not submitted this yet, but Kara sent me this offer. I changed it to purchase on my side. It's under contract. And I actually put Kara's name at the end of it so that I would know. So when I'm actually looking at my loops right now, I'm going to work Kara's contract out of Kara's loop. So when I'm looking, I'm always looking for the purchase. I'm really not going back into this Southwick. Let me get rid of this notification. I'm not going back into this Southwick. So if you look, when I submitted this listing folder, I submitted it here and I got my checklist and everything's checked off. Then when Amy and I went into contract, the hub, I submitted her contract and the hub put this checklist in, but this is now a fall through, okay? So this contract is no longer. So I can actually submit for review and I can actually say, hey, this one's fallen through and actually I need to submit it. This one, can you remove or check off the items on the closing checklist? Because for me, and I'm a little bit anal, but I want that checklist to be complete. I want this contract checklist to go away because when I look at this listing loop, I feel like there's things I haven't done when technically this listing loop is complete, okay? But when I have this situation happen where another agent brings me a separate loop, I leave my listing loop alone and I really don't go back into it. And I work out of the purchase and sales loop. And again, this is what we're trying to avoid. If Kara could have searched for my loop, and she may have connected to that, you know, I told you there's a loop that shows up that's the MLS loop. So she does use Dotloop, so she may very well have not be aware of that, and she may have connected to that MLS loop. I don't know. Either way, she is connected to a listing loop. And I think a way that I could find out is if I go to view details here. Yep. Property address would be blank if she just created this loop, but she's connected to a listing loop. So she is connected to that loop that should have gone into ghost mode. If that makes any sense to you guys. So that's how those two loops got created. So we need to get the word out there that if somebody's bringing you an offer, make sure they don't connect to the Knoxville Association loop. Let's see, we got some comments, questions. You're very welcome. How do we change the name of a loop? I'll answer that. Let's see. Yep, Katie, we got you in. And then Jody, did I miss a question? Did you miss my question above? Let me see what Jody asked. Oh, okay, so we answered that just now. Okay, so let's see. How do you change the name of a loop? So here's another one, so I'll show you how to do that. So this is my listing loop on Boxwood. However, the offer, I had multiple offers on this one. So the offer that I went with, the agent connected to that other loop also. And so here's his offer loop. So I'm gonna go up here and click on this title of the loop. And right here, I'm gonna go ahead and put in Scott Blevins. So you can change it once you go into the view details section. So now when I go back, just like with Kara's, I can tell two different ways which loop is mine. The Boxwood loop that's the listing is my listing loop, but the Boxwood loop that says purchase and Scott Blevins, that's the loop that I'm going to work the contract out of. And I'm going to submit these for review today. I'm behind. Let's see, any other questions? Thank you. Good deal. You guys are great. You're very welcome, and I'm glad you learned something.